Chapter 128. Who? Amid the chaos, a black flag materialized in Xiao Chen's eyes. Finally, it materialized in the air. Xiao Chen shouted and flew into the air. Then he grabbed the pole of the flag and stabbed it into the ground. A resounding Xiao character appeared on the black flag. This was the mark left by the sage. In the end, Xiao Chen had assimilated it. Xiao Chen opened his eyes again, and his surroundings changed again. Xiao Chen stood on the bow of the silver warship. He had finally returned to the real world. The black flag on the bow fluttered. The Yen character on the flag had disappeared, replaced by the Xiao character. This secret treasure finally bore Xiao Chen's mark. Xiao Chen smiled gently and sent out his spiritual sense. He started to check the formation lines on the secret treasure. After a while, he withdrew his spiritual sense. He felt slightly disappointed. The formation lines on the offensive formation had not improved. There were no signs of them being repaired. It looked like he could only redraw them when his cultivation realm increased. However, the other functions of the secret treasure had already recovered. It was no different from when it was at its peak. At the very least, its speed and defense should not disappoint Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and jumped off the bow. The secret treasure still had to go through lightning for 49 days before it could truly condense the Tao of heaven and earth. For the time being, there was nothing for Xiao Chen to do. Being 10,000 meters in the air, there was a different feeling. Xiao Chen felt this special feeling as he quickly descended to the ground. An unending stream of dark clouds appeared below Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense and saw countless raindrops falling from the clouds. When the clouds collided, thunder roared and lightning tore through the sky. Xiao Chen sighed. When one is in the sky, I nearly forgot about the mundane world. Xiao Chen had not finished using the medial-grade spirit stones in his hand. He infused his essence into his body and charged through the dark clouds. The essence on his body blocked off the falling raindrops, allowing them to flow out of his body. Xiao Chen suddenly became interested. He used the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula to imitate Ji Changkong's martial technique. His body turned into a meteor and landed on the ground. Boom! The meteor pierced through the endless curtain of rain in the sky and landed on the ground in an instant. It exploded with a loud bang, and Xiao Chen's figure appeared. The surrounding airwaves shook, and countless raindrops evaporated in an instant. Looking at the medial-grade spirit stone that had completely lost its luster, Xiao Chen was somewhat astonished. He muttered, "This is a martial technique that requires an inherited martial spirit. Using the changing character formula to imitate it consumes too much energy. I have to remember this in the future." Xiao Chen tossed aside the medial-grade spirit stone that he had exhausted all his essence. Then he walked quickly through the rain. Xiao Chen walked quickly on the Zhuang River. Finally, he passed through the gushing waterfall and entered the cave. He took out the ancient martial techniques from the universe ring. Xiao Chen started to read them slowly. These so-called ancient words were the traditional Chinese characters of China. It was not difficult for Xiao Chen to read them. He had just seen the life of an ancient sage and gained some comprehension in his heart. This kind of comprehension was a very profound state. Xiao Chen felt his mind become much clearer. Many of the problems that he could not figure out in the past were instantly solved. He did not know when this state would disappear. Hence, he quickly took out the ancient martial techniques and read them carefully, hoping to gain some comprehension. The ancient martial techniques were very different from the martial techniques of the present world. The biggest difference was that the ancient martial techniques were not divided into heaven, earth, profound, or yellow. Xiao Chen read them carefully one by one. He did not seek to understand all of them. He just wanted to gain some comprehension. He skipped over the parts that he could not understand. He would not be stuck at a dead end. Just like that, Xiao Chen read the 5 ancient martial techniques in the cave for half a month. Only when the feeling of comprehension disappeared did Xiao Chen stop. Hualala! The waterfall in front of the cave continued to flow. Xiao Chen looked through the waterfall and saw that the rain did not stop. It continued to pour without end. Because the silver warship had to undergo a baptism of lightning, the rain did not stop for the past half a month. Xiao Chen got up and passed through the gushing waterfall with a schwa sound. He faced the pouring rain and landed on the gushing Zhuang River. The water on the Zhuang River surged. It had already reached the riverbank long ago. The current on the river was faster than ever. Xiao Chen's blue dragon cloud soaring art had already reached the small perfection. Relying on this heaven-ranked movement technique, he stood firmly on the surface of the gushing river, not panicking at all. Closing his eyes, Xiao Chen allowed the rain to fall on him. He carefully thought about the gains he had made in the past half a month. His mind was clear, and he entered a wondrous state. The ancient martial techniques gave him a lot of inspiration. Some of them were sword techniques, some were purely cultivation techniques, and some were spear techniques. However, Xiao Chen did not intend to practice them. These martial techniques were not the peak martial techniques of the ancient era. As the saying goes, one should not bite off more than one can chew. If he were to practice them all over again, the gains would not make up for the losses. When the various martial techniques were mixed together, they would end up becoming fetters. Xiao Chen intended to continue comprehending the rushing thunder saber technique. He wanted to combine the things he had comprehended in the past half a month, the blue dragon cloud soaring art, and the battle sage origins changing character formula. He wanted to make the rushing thunder saber technique undergo a qualitative change. The difficulty of this was no less than creating a new martial technique. Using the rushing thunder saber technique as the core, Xiao Chen combined what he had learned in the past and his recent comprehensions to refine the rushing thunder saber technique. Xiao Chen stood on the surface of the Zhuang River for half a month. He seemed to have felt the bloodline of the Zhuang River. The gushing river water seemed to have merged with him. Pussy eye. On this day, Xiao Chen finally opened his eyes. His black pupils were calm, without any ripples. With a thought, the lunar shadow saber appeared in his right hand from the universe ring with a schwa sound. Drawing the saber, Xiao Chen's feet moved slightly, and his right hand slowly brandished the saber. There was no light on the saber. With a schwa sound, the saber flashed through the rain, passing through the gaps between the raindrops. It disappeared in a flash. It was extremely fast and did not get any water on it. Boom! A bolt of lightning appeared out of nowhere and landed on the surface of the water. There was a loud rumble and a 2-meter-tall wave was kicked up. Electricity flowed on the surface of the water and was transmitted to Xiao Chen's body. Xiao Chen's expression did not change at all. The electricity crackled and exploded on his skin. He looked like he was covered in electricity, but it did not injure him at all. Finally, the electricity gathered on the black blade of the lunar shadow saber. Xiao Chen took a step forward and made use of this electricity to quickly draw his saber. Arclight chop. A purple arc, carrying with it a 2-meter-long electric light, exploded in the rain with a bang. In an instant, the water droplets immediately evaporated into steam. A mist spread out, and the surrounding space seemed to be cut off. There was a momentary emptiness in the pouring rain. Boom! Another bolt of lightning resounded, and the wave soared to the sky. Xiao Chen soared into the sky, creating an intense wave under his feet. For this rushing heaven chop, Xiao Chen combined the dragon soaring cloud art. His figure was as fast as a flood dragon. Everywhere he passed, the rain was cut in half. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Chen moved several hundred meters. With the help of the blue dragon cloud soaring art, his body suddenly spun in midair, and actually paused for a moment. In a situation where he did not use the gravity spell, this was almost impossible. The gravity spell took too long to activate, so it did not have much combat value. Thus, Xiao Chen usually only used it to escape. Pooh! The instant he paused, Xiao Chen's aura suddenly rose to its peak. Under the pressure of this aura, the falling rain seemed to slow down. Boom! 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 Rushing thunder chop. Xiao Chen shouted and thunder roared behind him. Countless claps of thunder sounded out, making his aura even more horrifying. It was like a thunder god had descended. Bang! Carrying the momentum of the rushing thunder, Xiao Chen chopped the water with his saber. The huge force sliced the water in half like tofu, forming a wall of water. Then a 3-meter-high wave rose. Xiao Chen landed in the water, and the walls of water on both sides quickly closed up. Although the walls of water looked soft, they contained 1,000 kilograms of force. It could easily crush a cultivator into meat paste. Rushing thunder second chain chop. Using the energy accumulated from the previous 4 attacks, Xiaochen quickly executed the rushing thunder second chain chop. This attack did not have a clear target, it was just swung at the air. Wuxia. A whirlpool of energy appeared in the air, sucking in the walls of water that were closing up and forming a huge whirlpool. Xiaochen pushed off gently and jumped to the riverbank. The whirlpool spun for a long time. The surrounding river water was all gathered together. After a while, a huge pillar of water rose up and rushed to the sky. Xiaochen stood on the riverbank and looked at the pillar of water rushing to the sky. There was not much satisfaction on his face. In the past month, Xiaochen had used the Sage Dao comprehension and the ancient martial techniques to evolve the rushing thunder chop to an even more horrifying level. However, it was still far from the goal in his heart. The martial techniques that he had learned were not completely melded together. In the past month, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that the potential of the rushing thunder saber technique was limitless. It did not seem like a profound ranked martial technique at all. Even until now, he still could not understand the laws contained within it. He was also unable to execute the rushing thunder third chain chop. He felt that something was missing. Xiaochen sighed slightly and smiled bitterly. Looks like it will be difficult for me to completely comprehend the rushing thunder saber technique as a superior grade martial master. After resting for a while, Xiaochen looked into the distance. His gaze penetrated through the misty rain. He looked at the middle-sized spirit gathering formation at the peak of the mountain in the distance. Then, he executed the gravity spell and flew in that direction. After a while, he passed through the boundless clouds. Xiaochen stood on the peak of the mountain once again. It was raining here as well. However, it was raining spiritual energy that had turned into spiritual liquid. In the center of the spirit gathering formation, the golden pillar of light was still as resplendent as before. The spirit spring on the silver warship had already been repaired long ago. At this moment, it was undergoing the baptism of lightning and did not need the help of spiritual energy. Xiaochen stored the spiritual energy in the center of the spirit gathering formation into his universe ring. Then he walked into the spirit gathering formation and sat down cross-legged, entering a state of cultivation. He did not want to waste the spiritual energy that he had gathered. In an instant, the liquefied spiritual energy in the air all gathered on Xiaochen's body. Boundless spiritual energy poured into Xiaochen's body. The spiritual energy in Xiaochen's meridians surged endlessly. The speed of his cultivation in the spirit gathering formation was much faster than the cave behind the waterfall. Xiaochen consumed another fasting pill and started to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation. Chapter 129. The time spent cultivating was incomparably lonely. The sun rose and set, the clouds gathered and dispersed. Xiaochen seemed to have entered a meditative state, not moving at all. Ka. After half a month, the lines on the spirit gathering formation started to slowly crack. The 40 medial grade spirit stones all turned into powder. Boom! Xiaochen opened his eyes and shot out a purple light. After more than a month of bitter cultivation, in addition to the cultivation of the spirit gathering formation, he had finally reached the peak of superior grade martial master. He smiled faintly, finally revealing a satisfied expression. However, when he thought about how Ji Chongkong had already become a martial saint long ago, and how those noble clan disciples with inherited martial spirits were all at the peak of martial grandmaster, he could not help but feel dispirited. If he was like these people and could awaken his martial spirit at birth, he would not have wasted 15 years. With his talent, his cultivation speed would not be any slower than these people. Boom! A huge silver warship slowly landed on the peak of the mountain. After 49 days of baptism by lightning, this ancient secret treasure had finally recovered some of its former glory. However, this huge warship was too conspicuous. With a thought, the flag on the bow of the warship flew into Xiaochen's eyes. The warship quickly became smaller. After a while, a small silver boat appeared in Xiaochen's eyes. Xiaochen smiled faintly and jumped onto the boat. He looked at the distant white water city and said softly, "It is time to go back." The formation activated and the small silver boat soared into the sky. It moved as fast as lightning. It was several times faster than when Xiaochen used the gravity spell. The wind whistled by his ears continuously. Xiaochen stood on the bough with his hands behind his back. His clothes and long hair fluttered in the wind. There was a trace of indifference on his sharp face. Unexpectedly, there was a trace of the ethereal feeling of an immortal. Xiaochen was incomparably excited. There had never been a flight that was as carefree as this one. Every cell in his body was relaxed. Finally, Xiaochen slowed down and increased the altitude of the ship, avoiding those flying beasts. He sat at the bow and took out a bottle of wine from his universe ring. Then he took out some snacks and started to drink by himself. At this moment, the torrential rain that had been raining for a month finally stopped. The sunlight after the rain warmed everyone. Xiaochen enjoyed the wind as he drank and ate. As he looked at the different scenery in the sky, he occasionally revealed a contented smile. At this moment, he finally experienced the feeling of an immortal. For 1,000 kilometers of the world, anywhere he wanted to go. Tasting a bottle of wine, watching the clouds gather and scatter, flowers bloom and wilt, gazing at the sun, the moon, mountains and rivers. Xiaochen sat at the bow and traveled in the sky. When he was about to leave Savage Forest, a black warship appeared in Xiaochen's spiritual sense. Startled, Xiaochen quickly increased the altitude of the small silver boat. He searched the surroundings carefully. After a while, the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace, the Guyi Marquis' golden warship, and the Hua clan's warship appeared one after another. Xiaochen revealed a faint smile and said, "This group of people is really patient. It has already been more than a month, and they still have not left." Wuxia. Suddenly, the silver warship accelerated. Xiaochen entered the hold of the warship and activated the formation in the secret treasure with all his might. At this moment, the secret treasure of the ancient sages displayed a horrifying speed. It streaked across the sky like a silver bolt of lightning, heading for Whitewater City at lightning speed. The distance of more than 1,000 meters was covered in an instant. Xiaochen stopped the silver warship in the sky above Whitewater City. He was not in a rush to descend. Xiaochen did not even need to think to know the situation in the city. His wanted posters were everywhere. The noble clans had issued a kill order for him at the same time. This was not something that the Jiang clan's wanted poster could compare to. Xiaochen thought about the compendium of cultivation. There was a shape-shifting technique. When practiced to great perfection, one could turn into anything in the world. Mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, even the sun, moon, and stars could be used. Now that he thought about it, it seemed like he could use it here. Xiaochen did not have any extravagant hopes of reaching that legendary realm. All he needed was to change his appearance slightly. The sun set in the west. In the blink of an eye, it was dusk. Xiaochen had already practiced the shape-shifting technique to the point where he could change his appearance. However, he was not very proficient. He could not change his height or physique. Actually, with Xiaochen's Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's third layer, he could practice many of the minor spells in the compendium of cultivation. However, he did not have the time to study them. This resulted in him needing to use the shape-shifting technique. Furthermore, he had no choice but to use it on the spot. The full moon hung high in the sky, and the stars dotted the sky. Night fell completely. Xiaochen turned into a dark-skinned middle-aged man. He prepared to sneak into Whitewater City during the night. Dong! Dong! Just at this moment, the spirit blood jade in front of Xiaochen's chest suddenly moved. Xiaochen rejoiced in his heart. After a while, Bai jumped out of the spirit blood jade. After sleeping for such a long time, the moment Bai jumped out, it immediately dove into Xiaochen's embrace. When it saw the dark-skinned Xiaochen, it did not understand what was going on. Its large eyes were filled with doubt as it looked at Xiaochen. Xiaochen smiled happily and restored his appearance. Bai immediately became intimate with him. Xiaochen smiled and said, "I am currently being chased by bad people. I cannot reveal my true appearance. Hide in the spirit blood jade first. Later, I will treat you to some fish porridge." Bai nodded obediently. It gestured with its hands that there was a very big bowl. This meant that it wanted to eat a big bowl of fish porridge. It looked extremely cute, causing Xiaochen to be unable to restrain a smile. Xiaochen extended his spiritual sense and found a place with no one around. Then he quickly descended from the sky. Xiaochen turned back into the dark-skinned middle-aged man from earlier. His appearance was completely different from before. Then he swaggered over to the city gates. There were 6 wanted posters of Xiaochen pasted on the city walls. Under each of the posters, there was a huge bounty. Aside from the bounty, the noble clans would also offer a spirit weapon and a high-ranked martial technique. What surprised Xiaochen was that he also saw the wanted poster of the Shiha province's Yen clan. He could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. When the noble clans make their move, they are indeed incomparably tyrannical. Dongming Province, Nanling Province, Shiha Province, and the King's Residence. The 4 prefectures of the Great Qin Nation are all after me. It looks like there is no longer a place for me in this world. After entering Whitewater City, Xiaochen headed straight for Liushang Pavilion. As night approached, Liushang Pavilion's business was booming. When Xiaochen walked in, the first floor was already filled with tables. He could not see any empty seats. Xiaochen headed straight for the second floor. The second floor was filled with cultivators. At this moment, they were loudly discussing the events of the past month. It has been more than a month. The noble clans have practically flipped the entire savage forest upside down. However, they still have not found Xiaochen. After so many years, this is the first time I saw so many people challenging the noble clans at the same time. Even the Night Spirit Palace's Mu Qingxue was not as famous as the current Xiaochen. I do not understand. How did Xiaochen offend so many noble clans at the same time? Haha. This Xiaochen had already offended 3 noble clans because of the Ancient Remnant map. After he entered the Ancient Remnant, I heard from the people who escaped that he robbed the 4 noble clans. He did not even let the Guyi marquee off. Doesn't that mean that this fellow has a great treasure on him? If we capture him, we will have struck it rich. There is no need to capture him. As long as we have news of him and report it to the noble clans, we will be able to obtain 1,000 gold taels. As Xiaochen headed for the 3rd floor, he heard the loud discussions of the cultivators on the 2nd floor. This caused him to feel somewhat astonished. He did not expect that after so long, he would still be in the eye of the storm. After flashing his VIP card, Xiaochen headed for the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor was much quieter. They were all haggling in low voices. When Xiaochen looked over, he discovered that many people were trading for some of the treasures in the Ancient Remnant. Although many cultivators died miserably on this trip to the Ancient Remnant, there was no lack of lucky cultivators or strong cultivators who found good things. Hey, just as Xiaochen was about to sit down, he saw a cultivator at a table, about to trade for a small and exquisite copper bell. That copper bell had an ancient charm to it. Unfortunately, the surface of it was badly damaged. Xiaochen extended his spiritual sense over. When it came in contact with the copper bell, a loud chime resounded in his mind. His mind shook and he nearly fainted. He was greatly startled and quickly withdrew his spiritual sense. Hey, I risked my life to find this bell in a coffin in the Ancient Remnant. It is definitely a secret treasure. To think you are only willing to pay 1,000 silver taels for it. What a bastard. The owner of the copper bell was a martial grand master dressed in gray robes. At this moment, his expression was extremely agitated. His right arm was broken in half. When he heard the other party's bid, his face turned ashen and his expression was filled with resentment. During this trip to the Ancient Remnant, his right arm was broken in half and he became a cripple. He originally thought that he would be able to sell this copper bell for a good price. Who knew it was only worth 1,000 silver taels? Opposite the gray-robed martial grand master was a merchant. He had an impatient expression on his face as he said unhappily, "There are good and bad secret treasures as well. This copper bell of yours is clearly damaged and can no longer be used. How can it be worth so much? If it was not for the fact that it is quite old and has some value as a collector, I would be too lazy to even pay 1,000 silver taels for it. Do you want to sell it or not? Don't waste my time. You are ruthless." The cultivator with the broken arm said with an ashen expression before he turned and left the table. The merchant at the table smiled coldly. "What is this? It is just like a piece of scrap metal. To think I thought it was a treasure." The surrounding people all looked over. When the cultivator with the broken arm heard this, his face flushed red. He felt ashamed in his heart, and he quickened his pace. Xiaochen walked over and stopped this person. That person looked at Xiaochen angrily and said, "What are you trying to do? Are you still selling the copper bell in your hand?" "I am interested." Xiaochen smiled faintly. The cultivator with the broken arm smiled coldly. "You want to take advantage of me? I risked my life for it. If you want to take advantage of me, there is no way." Xiaochen smiled gently and did not say anything. He placed an inferior grade spirit stone into the cultivator's clothes. When the cultivator with the broken arm touched his clothes, he was startled. "Here. Many thanks." He handed the copper bell to Xiaochen and bowed deeply to Xiaochen. He did not say anything else and immediately left Liushang Pavilion. Xiaochen looked at the cultivator's back and sighed in his heart. This was the path of a cultivator. Behind the surface, they lived a life that was 10,000 times more dangerous than ordinary people. Once they were severely injured, they could only be an ordinary person for the rest of their life. Chapter 130. This person could be considered lucky to have met Xiaochen. There were cultivators who had the same experience as him. After they became crippled, they did not even have enough food and clothing to eat. They ended up living a miserable life. At this moment, a manservant suddenly walked over. He said to Xiaochen, "Dear guest, our young master invites you up." Xiaochen was slightly startled. "I have already changed my appearance. How did Fatso recognize me?" Feeling suspicious, Xiaochen put away the copper bell and followed the manservant to the 5th floor. On the 5th floor, when the familiar face of Fatso saw Xiaochen come up, he immediately laughed and walked forward. He patted Xiaochen hard and said, "Brat, you are really capable. You managed to hide for so long without being discovered by the noble clans. What's wrong? Are you really looking for this fat lord to run away this time?" Xiaochen smiled faintly and voiced the doubts in his heart. Fatso gestured for Xiaochen to sit down. Then he unfurled his signature fan with a schwa sound. He smiled proudly and said, "It is just that this fat lord's intelligence is slightly higher than others. I know that you will change your appearance when you enter the city. However, the ring on your finger will not change. That is why I gave every manservant a drawing. As long as they see a person wearing a ring like yours, they are to immediately invite him over." Xiaochen looked at the universe ring in his hand and frowned slightly. He did not expect there to be such an obvious flaw in his plan. Xiaochen collected his thoughts and looked at Fatso. He asked, "That day on the stone platform, after I left, did any of you see any movements from Chu Chaoyan?" Fatso shook his head and sighed. "No. After you flew away that day, all of us left the stone platform. No one noticed Chu Chaoyan. When we returned, the Heavenly Emperor's coffin and corpse, as well as Chu Chaoyan, had all disappeared." Hearing those words, Xiaochen furrowed his brows slightly. He carefully pondered. He seemed to have cleared up some of the doubts he had about the journey to the remnants. However, he couldn't figure out why Chu Chaoyan and the Celestial Emperor's coffin had disappeared together. Although the Tianwu Emperor was not an ancient martial emperor, he had comprehended the laws of heaven and earth and comprehended his own Tao. Taoist rhymes automatically appeared around the corpse, repelling the space ring. It could not be stored in the space ring at all. Since it was such a huge coffin, how did it disappear? For the past month or so, aside from cultivating, Xiaochen had been thinking about the various aspects of this trip to the ruins. He felt as though there was an invisible hand pushing the whole thing forward. Everyone had become someone else's pawn. Xiaochen said to Fatso, "Have you ever wondered how the Jiang family got the map of the relic?" No one knew how the Jiang family had obtained the blueprint. The blueprint seemed to have suddenly flown out without any warning. After that, it was very coincidentally leaked out, dragging in the noble clans of the Dongming province. In the end, no one expected that the Jiang family would have the support of the Ji family. The Jiang family had the support of the Ji family, so they were not afraid of these aristocratic families. Everything had formed a delicate balance. No one could explore the ruins alone. They could only advance together. Kim Taeho took out a few maps of different ages from his bosom. These maps were all incomparably ancient. They gave off an aura of vicissitudes. Xiaochen guessed that the oldest one was at least 3,000 years old. Fatso said slowly, "We reacted too late. Before we entered the relic, I already felt that something was wrong. So, I ordered people to gather all the information about the relic in the Dongming province. In the end, I only received news a few days ago. The final location of these maps was the underground palace that we went to. I took a look. The earliest map was from the time when the Tianwu dynasty was just destroyed. Xiaochen was startled. The Tianwu dynasty had already been destroyed for 5,000 years. That was to say, someone had started this plan 5,000 years ago. Then, it continued until today. Thinking of the strange stone platform and the countless corpses on it, Xiaochen said in disbelief, "Do you think that someone wanted to revive the Tianwu emperor?" There was clearly an ancient formation below the stone platform. It absorbed everyone's spiritual energy and life force and gathered them together. Fatso scratched his head and said, "That should not be possible. In the history of the Tianwu continent, I have never heard of any method to revive a person. Even the emperor could not do it. There were many corpses that turned into corpses, but they did not have their memories from when they were alive." Xiaochen thought about it and felt that it made sense. Reviving a dead person was something that went against the cycle of the Great Tao. If it really happened, the laws of heaven and earth would definitely change. What do you think of the headless sage on the platform? Xiaochen remembered that he still had a broken sword in his universe ring. Until now, he could not figure out what was so special about it. He wanted to see if he could get some answers from Fatso. Kim Taeho took out a very old drawing and said, "This is the drawing from 1,000 years ago. That was the era when the Great Qin nation was at its strongest. Be it the Dongming province, the Shiha province, or the southern province, they all produced many geniuses. The people who went that time were all peak characters of that era. Every one of them was a martial sage. According to my understanding, that should have been the last time. However, it seems like it was destroyed by someone in the end. That is why we are here in the ancient remnant." The more Xiaochen thought about it, the more terrifying the person who set it up became. Even a martial sage was toyed with in the palm of his hand. Xiaochen did not know who the person who destroyed it was. His cultivation was definitely not low. After Fatso muttered to himself for a while, he said, "According to the situation of that era, there was only one person in the Great Qin nation who could destroy this." "Who?" "The Thunder King Sang Mu." Kim Taeho enunciated every word clearly. The Thunder King was the last Emperor Wu of the Great Qin nation. He was also the strongest person in the Great Qin nation at that time. His whereabouts in his later years were a mystery. I believe that it is definitely related to this incident. Xiaochen was not astonished. In reality, his guess was the same as Fatso's. The wounds on the necks of those martial sages did indeed have traces of lightning. If Ao Jiao woke up in the future, Xiaochen could go and ask her. As the item spirit of the Thunderwood sword, she should know something. "You seem to have forgotten about someone?" Xiaochen did not continue on this topic and changed the topic. Kim Taeho smiled faintly and said, "I know who you are talking about. Chu Chaoyan? I can only say that this person is very mysterious and very strong. It is best that you do not offend him." "I cannot offend him?" However, Xiaochen had a premonition in his heart that there would be a battle between him and Chu Chaoyan sooner or later. This was a kind of intuition that had no basis or reason. It was just a feeling that he had. After asking around, Xiaochen got up and prepared to leave. Fatso quickly pulled him back and said, "Do you really not need me to help you escape? The people of the noble clans are all looking for you." Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "There is no need. That's right, get someone to bring me some fish porridge. I have a use for it." Fatso called the waiter over to help Xiaochen with the fish porridge. Then he said, "That's right. At this time, the people of the noble clans and the Jiang clan are all in Savage Forest. Whitewater City is much safer. However, I say, Brother Xiao, have you really forgotten something?" Xiaochen felt somewhat suspicious as he asked, "What is it?" Fatso chuckled and took out a promissory note. He said, "Brother Xiao, did you forget about this promissory note so quickly? Furthermore, it does not matter who you sell the treasures of the 4 noble clans to. If you sell them to me, I will forget about this debt." "I actually forgot about this matter." Xiaochen thought for a while. He had no use for those things, so he took out all the battle armor, spirit weapons, ancient martial techniques, and medicinal pills from his universe ring. These treasures piled up like a small mountain on the small table. Fatso stared at them with wide eyes. After a while, he could not help but laugh loudly. After a while, Fatso noticed that Xiaochen was looking at him strangely. He quickly stopped laughing and said, "I can't help it, I can't help it. That's right, aren't there still spirit stones? That is good stuff. Everyone in the 3 noble clans has quite a bit." This Fatso was extraordinarily greedy. Xiaochen said indifferently, "Don't even think about spirit stones. I will sell these things to you. I will pay half with spirit stones and the other half with gold banknotes." Fatso's smiling face immediately turned bitter. He said, "Brother Xiao, let me tell you this. Gold banknotes are easy to get, but spirit stones are not." Xiaochen thought for a while and said, "In that case, I will exchange all of them for gold banknotes. However, it is best to settle everything tomorrow morning. After that, I will probably not appear in Dongming province again." Fatso knew Xiaochen's situation. He said, "No problem. Here are 20 essence light arrows. Miss Xiaoxiao asked me to give them to you before she left." Xiaochen received the essence light arrows from Fatso. Suddenly, he thought of a problem. His expression changed. "Damn Fatso. Could it be that the essence light arrows from before were given to me by Su Xiaoxiao?" Fatso smiled embarrassedly. He kept the things on the table and quickly ran out like a whirlwind. The answer to the question went without saying. Fatso had a guilty conscience. Early the next morning, Xiaochen received the 8 million taels of gold banknotes from Fatso and left Liushang Pavilion. 8 million taels of gold banknotes was a large sum of money. Even the annual income of the Whitewater City's Jiang clan was not that much. Not long after Xiaochen left Liushang Pavilion, he immediately felt a faintly discernible killing qi spreading around him. Xiaochen was startled and quickly extended his spiritual sense. The merchant who made the deal with the cultivator with the severed arm led a few martial grandmasters, and carefully followed behind Xiaochen. They hid themselves very well. If it were not for that strand of killing qi that he did not control well, Xiaochen would not have been able to discover them. Xiaochen smiled faintly and walked forward. When he arrived at a desolate alley, he immediately entered it. The group of people quickly followed him. The alley was a dead end. Even after the group of people walked to the end, they did not see Xiaochen's shadow. The leader could not help but curse. "Where is he? Where did he run off to? Are the few of you looking for me?" Xiaochen slowly descended from the air and blocked the exit of the alley. He smiled faintly. That person was stunned at first, but his face lit up with joy. He laughed loudly. "We were just looking for you. You ran out yourself. Hand over all the spirit stones on you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Xiaochen's expression did not change. He smiled faintly. "I don't seem to have any grudges with the few of you. There is no need to force me to my death." Chapter 131. The leader took out a spirit stone and smiled coldly. "You even dare to cause trouble for our Jiang clan's business. You can only blame yourself for being blind. You are actually willing to pay an inferior grade spirit stone for a broken bell. Don't you understand the meaning of not flaunting one's wealth?" Xiaochen's heart trembled. So these people are from the Jiang clan. No wonder they are so daring. He could not help but have a bad premonition. Xiaochen asked coldly, "Where is the cultivator with the broken arm from last night?" "Haha, that trash? Kill him. Leaving this kind of trash in this world is a burden." Buying his broken bell for 1,000 silver taels was already giving him a lot of face. To think he did not even want to sell it to me. "So be it if I kill him," the leader said indifferently. Xiaochen was incomparably furious in his heart. "So be it if I kill him." In the eyes of this group of people, what are human lives? Are they not even comparable to beasts? Cut the crap, kill him. The leader was already running out of patience. He opened his mouth to call for people to take down Xiaochen. However, before he could finish speaking, he saw a purple light flash in front of him. His body had already been cut into 2. Fresh blood slowly flowed out of the lunar shadow saber. Xiaochen took out an old cloth and wiped the blood off. After a while, he shot out a few purple flames and burned the 5 corpses to ashes. Xiaochen used an hour to deal with the 5 inferior grade martial grand masters. With Xiaochen's current cultivation as a peak martial master, coupled with his rushing thunder saber technique and azure dragon cloud soaring art that were nearing great perfection, Xiaochen was able to deal with them easily. Unless one was at the peak of the martial grand master realm, or possessed an inherited martial spirit or other secret treasures, they would not be able to last more than 10 moves against Xiaochen. After the rushing thunder saber technique was executed at full power, it was like the roar of thunder and lightning. Each move was stronger than the one before it. Killing enemies of higher cultivation realms was as easy as flipping a palm against those with weak willpower. It was as easy as chopping vegetables. After using his essence, Xiaochen's appearance returned to normal. This was the disadvantage of not reaching the small success stage of the shapeshifting technique. As long as he used his essence, he would immediately reveal his true form. The reason why I am where I am today is because Jiang Muheng ridiculed me at the start, forcefully robbing me. If it were not for the Jiang clan, I would not be treated like a street rat, wanted by the noble clans. If it were not for the Jiang clan, that cultivator with a severed arm would not have said that he was killed so casually after he was killed. Xiaochen's eyes were bloodshot. According to Kim Taeho's information, the Jiang clan head and a few martial saint experts were currently searching for him in the forest. In other words, there were no martial saints in the Jiang residence. There was no one who could threaten him. There were too many injustices in this world. Xiaochen did not want to care about them, nor was he willing to. However, this Jiang clan was too hateful, pestering him endlessly. In that case, I'll just kill them all, Xiaochen thought to himself. He put on a black cloak and slowly walked towards the Jiang residence. The Jiang residence was located on a large street in the west of the city. It occupied an area of more than 1,000 square meters. The entrance to the Jiang residence was very grand. The steps were 10 meters tall, and there were 10 martial masters standing on each side. Together with 2 tall stone lions, it looked very impressive. Who is standing there sneakily? Don't you know this is the Jiang clan? If you don't scram, I'll break your legs. When the cultivators saw Xiaochen standing in front of the Jiang residence in a black cloak, they shouted loudly. Xiaochen removed his hood, revealing a sharp face. His face looked like it was carved with a knife. He released his killing intent without hiding it. He smiled faintly and said, "Do I not even have the right to stand here? It's Xiaochen. Quickly kill him." The clan head said that if you kill him, he will immediately give you the position of an elder. Everyone immediately recognized Xiaochen's appearance. 20 martial masters wielded sabers and charged at Xiaochen with a strong killing intent. Suddenly, a boundless flame appeared in Xiaochen's right eye. Finally, it turned into a purple light. Boom! The bodies of the 20 martial masters burst into flames. There were miserable cries. Before they could reach Xiaochen, they turned into a pile of ashes. A cultivator who had opened the doors of the Jiang residence happened to see this scene. He immediately screamed in fright and closed the doors again. Half of the essence in his body had been exhausted. Xiaochen took out an essence pill and swallowed it. 20 martial masters were not a threat to him. However, he did not want to drag this out. He had to end this quickly, before the noble clans arrived. Bang! Xiaochen kicked the doors of the Jiang residence open. He had just taken 2 steps when he saw an old man holding a saber that flickered with a cold light. He led a group of cultivators over. The one leading them was the previous first elder of the Jiang clan, Jiang Yun's younger brother, Jiang Yueheng. He looked at Xiaochen, who was slowly walking over. Jiang Yueheng's face was not alarmed. Instead, he revealed a ruthless expression as he said, "There is a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. Instead, you barge into hell. Today, I will skin you alive to take revenge for my big brother." Wuxia. The reply he received was an essence light arrow flying at him. The arrow buzzed in the air as it streaked across the sky. It flew at lightning speed towards Jiang Yueheng's chest. Jiang Yueheng was startled. His big brother was shot to death by this essence light arrow. After that, he was nailed to the top of the city wall in humiliation. He was very clear about the speed of the essence light arrow, and the might of the soul slayer bow. He did not dodge. He circulated his essence, and held the saber in his hand across his chest. Boom. However, when the Soul Slayer bow was drawn with all his might, together with the Essence Light arrow, its speed was simply too fast. Even though he had calculated the position of the Essence Light arrow, he was still unable to block it. By the time he held the saber across his chest, the Essence Light arrow had already pierced through his chest. The huge force sent his body flying into the air. Finally, he was nailed to a high wall. Blood flowed out of his mouth continuously, and his eyes bulged so much that it looked terrifying. The surroundings were completely silent. When they saw Jiang Yueheng, who was showing off his might earlier, get nailed to the high wall the moment he finished speaking, they all took in a deep breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with incredulity. Xiaochen put away the Soul Slayer bow and looked around. He did not give them any time to be astonished. He headed straight for the place with the most martial grandmasters. The blue dragon cloud soaring art was executed to its limits. Xiaochen moved as though he was flying on flat ground. He instantly arrived in the middle of the crowd. There was a thunderous roar as he executed drawing the saber. There was a flash of saber light, and a martial grandmaster was immediately chopped in half. The Jiang clan cultivators reacted and quickly surrounded Xiaochen. The three cultivators behind them leaped into the air and hacked at Xiaochen's back with their sabers. If he turned around to block, the momentum of the rushing thunder saber technique would be broken. Xiaochen did not bother with them. Arc-light chop. A 2-meter-long purple arc of electricity streaked across the air. One of the three martial grandmasters in front could not dodge in time. He was chopped in half by the arc-light, and half of his body was chopped off. Electricity leaped about in the arc-light, and a shockwave spread out. The cultivators who wanted to surround Xiaochen were immediately knocked back. Bang, bang, bang. There were three muffled sounds as the three sabers on Xiaochen's back hacked down violently. The qi infused into the sabers immediately tore the clothes on Xiaochen's back into pieces. The three people's faces lit up with joy as they shouted, "Put in more effort! Chop this brat down!" The sabers hacked down on the battle armor. Although the battle armor blocked the sabers, it could not block the qi infused into the sabers. When the three qi infused into Xiaochen's body, even though his body was strong, his internal organs were still shaken. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Rushing heaven chop. Xiaochen did not care about the attacks behind him. He pushed off the ground and turned into a beam of light. He soared into the sky and instantly pierced through the chests of the 6 martial grand masters in front of him. Blood immediately filled the sky and landed on Xiaochen's body, dyeing him like a demon. The instant he left the ground, there was a clap of thunder behind him. The 3 martial grandmasters who sneak attacked him immediately exploded into a pile of meat paste. Uchi. Xiaochen suddenly turned around in the air and paused for a moment. Blood dyed his black clothes red. His aura rose to its peak, and the people below trembled in fear. Rushing thunder chop. Boundless thunder resounded behind him like a huge wave. Each wave was higher than the one before, causing his aura to rise to an untouchable level. Bang. A martial grandmaster below used his saber to block. The spirit weapon in his hand was immediately chopped in half. The lunar shadow saber slashed down from above. There was a loud explosion, and the Jiang clan martial grandmaster's corpse that was chopped in half exploded to the sides. Rushing thunder second chain chop. The boundless thunder suddenly stopped. Heaven and earth became incomparably quiet. Suddenly, the lunar shadow saber lit up with a resplendent electric light, forming a long electric light. Uchi. A huge whirlpool formed around Xiaochen's body. Countless electric lights leaped around in the whirlpool. A few Jiang clan cultivators rushed over, trying to break this horrifying whirlpool. A resplendent electric light soared into the sky and a boundless qi wave spread out in all directions. It immediately sent a few cultivators rushing over flying. Boom! Xiaochen shouted loudly. The lunar shadow saber carried a boundless electric light as it hacked the ground violently. In an instant, dust flew up into the air. The stone tiles on the ground were sent flying, floating in the air. Miserable cries resounded. Many people were turned into ashes by the electric light. There were also some people who were sent flying by the stone tiles, vomiting blood as their bodies flew backward. Xiaochen sheathed his saber and stood straight. He looked around coldly. There was still an endless stream of cultivators rushing over. It seemed like there was no end to killing them. He waved his hand and a golden statue appeared in the air. Boom! The Golden Lion King's mountain-like body appeared in the Jiang residence. It stomped on the ground and immediately crushed a few Jiang clan cultivators who were not able to dodge in time. The force was too great. A hole appeared in the ground. Xiaochen controlled the Golden Lion King to spit out golden flames continuously. The Jiang residence was instantly set ablaze. When the Golden Lion King was in the ancient remnant, even the martial saints of the noble clans could not do anything to it. How could the martial grandmasters and martial masters of the Jiang clan deal with it? Originally, Xiaochen did not want to use the Golden Lion King. However, there were too many reckless cultivators in the Jiang clan. They all wanted to take down his head and exchange it for boundless wealth. When the mountain-like Golden Lion King appeared, no one could block it. Everywhere it passed, the cultivators screamed and fled. However, they could not avoid being crushed into paste or burned to ashes. The Jiang clan head and a few martial saints were not here. Furthermore, their leader, Jiang Yueheng, was killed in an instant. Now that the Golden Lion King appeared in an undefeatable manner, their fighting spirit immediately crumbled. Chapter 132. They all started to flee the Jiang residence. Xiaochen extended out his spiritual sense and ignored the cultivators fleeing for their lives. He wanted to find the Jiang clan's hidden treasure trove. There were sounds of fighting coming from a pavilion on the west side of the Jiang residence. Occasionally, people would run out with large piles of gold, silver, and jewels, rushing out of the government office. With a great calamity looming over them, the Jiang clan cultivators were thrown into confusion. This was clearly the Jiang clan's hidden treasure trove. Xiaochen laughed gently and stood on the Golden Lion King's back as it flew away. A cool breeze blew past as Xiaochen's blood-stained hair fluttered in the wind. Along the way, he crushed countless pavilions and walls, leaving behind ruins. When the Jiang clan cultivators in the hidden treasure trove saw Xiaochen's figure, they were startled. Before Xiaochen got close, they had already scattered. Xiaochen jumped down and gave the Golden Lion King a berserk command. After that, he ignored it. After using it this time, the Golden Lion King would immediately shatter. There was no way to save it. Walking to the hidden treasure trove, Xiaochen swallowed another qi-returning pill. Then he extended his spiritual sense out. All the scenes within the vicinity appeared in his mind. A secret room at the bottom of the treasury attracted Xiaochen's attention. Relying on the guidance of his spiritual sense, Xiaochen passed through countless secret passages and secret compartments. He quickly arrived at the secret room below. A huge stone door blocked the way. It was clear there was a mechanism there. The stone floor was about 2 meters thick. Xiaochen could not be bothered to look for the mechanism. He condensed a strand of purple flame on his fingertip. The purple flame spun continuously. Every time it spun, Xiaochen's essence would be depleted rapidly. Shoot! Xiaochen shouted and the spinning purple thunder true fire shot out. It left a trail of flames in the air as it struck the stone floor. There was a loud sound and a large hole immediately appeared on the stone floor. Cracks spread out in all directions. After Xiaochen refined the purple thunder true fire several times, its penetrative power was no longer the same as before. Seeing the hole in the stone floor, Xiaochen raised his leg and kicked the stone floor into pieces. Xiaochen entered the secret room in a flash. There were rows of sandalwood boxes on the ground. Xiaochen casually opened one of the boxes and a golden light shone. It was filled with gold, silver, jewels, jades, and pearls. Xiaochen smiled faintly and swept his universe ring. He stored all the boxes in it. There were 20 boxes of treasures. He did not let go of any of them. Xiaochen looked at the shelves at the side. The items on the shelves were well organized. One row was medicinal pills, one row was spirit weapons, and one row was martial techniques and battle armor. On the last shelf, Xiaochen saw a row of inferior-grade spirit stones. There were more than 200 of them. Above the spirit stones, there were more than 100 essence light arrows. Xiaochen was overjoyed. He could not be bothered to count them. He swept his universe ring and stored everything in it. Even so, Xiaochen spent more than 10 minutes before he emptied the entire secret room. Huqi. Before Xiaochen left, he He set fire to the remaining shelves in the secret room. Then he quickly left. The Golden Lion King ran amok in the Jiang residence. Flames flew everywhere. In its berserk state, it was like a huge destructive machine. The entire Jiang residence was in a state of chaos and raging flames. Xiaochen looked into the distance. For warships were flying over quickly. The people of the various noble clans had received the news and were rushing over. Xiaochen smiled faintly, and a silver warship flew out from his right eye. He leaped onto the bow and turned into a silver bolt of lightning, leaving quickly. Not long after Xiaochen left, a black warship stopped in front of the Jiang residence. The Jiang clan's clan head, Jiang Mingxuan, looked at the Jiang residence, which was now in ruins. He had a desolate expression on his face. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Jiang Mingxuan said with a pale complexion, "We have let down our ancestors. Hundreds of years of foundation is gone just like that. Clan head, quickly go to the hidden treasure pavilion and take a look. As long as the Jiang clan's hundreds of years of accumulation is still there is no need to worry about not having a chance to make a comeback." A consecrated elder of the Jiang clan behind Jiang Mingxuan said. Jiang Mingxuan reacted and said loudly, Right. There is also the hidden treasure pavilion. My Jiang clan has accumulated for hundreds of years. There are tens of millions of gold taels and countless medicinal pills, spirit weapons and battle armor. We will definitely be able to make a comeback." It was like he had found a life-saving straw. He led the people behind him and quickly ran towards the hidden treasure pavilion. On the black warship, Ji Chongkong looked expressionlessly at the small silver warship that was disappearing into the distance. He said ruthlessly, "Disregard the expenditure of spirit stones and chase after him." The black warship was like a specter, disappearing from its original spot. In front of it, the ice bird under the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace gave off a resounding cry as it chased after Xiaochen. A large group of cultivators gathered in front of the Jiang residence. When they saw the blazing Jiang residence, all sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. Everyone knew that the Jiang clan was finished this time. They were completely destroyed by a superior grade martial master. Such a large Jiang clan was actually destroyed by a superior grade martial master. This is unbelievable. Indeed. This Xiaochen is too decisive. He took advantage of the time when all the martial saints of the Jiang clan had left to kill his way in. His boldness is indescribable. Do you think that the Jiang clan still has a chance to rise again? It is impossible. In the past few years, the Jiang clan has offended many people. Many martial grandmasters died in the ancient remnant. Now that their foundation has been destroyed, they are completely destroyed. This is great. When that bastard son of his was still alive, this old man suffered a lot. The crowd discussed this. The Jiang clan, which had been glorious in Whitewater City for hundreds of years, was gone just like that. They could not help but feel it was a pity. However, there were even more people who rejoiced in their hearts. They had an expression of schadenfreude on their faces. Gone. Everything is gone. In the secret room of the hidden treasure pavilion, Jiang Mingxuan looked at the empty room filled with ashes. There was nothing in the secret room, and he spoke in a crazed manner. High up in the sky, Xiaochen rode on the silver warship. He sped through the clouds, moving as fast as lightning. The clouds moved past him quickly. Xiaochen stood at the bow of the warship. His hair fluttered in the wind. When Xiaochen turned his head and saw the profound ice palace chasing after him, he smiled faintly. He recalled the silver warship into his eyes and descended from the sky. Xiaochen's body turned into a meteor, and after a while, he landed on the ground with a loud bang. His figure completely disappeared from the profound ice palace's sight. Half a month later, the various noble clans doubled the bounty on Xiaochen's head once again. When the news came out, there was an uproar. The name Xiaochen became known to everyone in the Great Qin nation. He became the topic of conversation after meals. There were many discussions about Xiaochen's identity. There were also countless versions of how he became enemies with the various noble clans. In Liushang Pavilion, Kim Taeho cursed, "What a beast! This fat lord only dares to occasionally take a few pieces of meat from him. This brat actually wiped out the Jiang clan in one go." A manservant ran over with a stack of contracts in his hands. He smiled at Kim Tae-ho and said, "Young master, the territories of the Jiang clan have all been bought out. The city lord's seal has already been stamped on them." What surprised the manservant was that Fatso did not have a pleased smile on his face. He slowly received the contracts and said, "Boring, there is no challenge at all. This fat lord is not a normal failure." The manservant did not understand and asked, "How can that be? Young master, you bought all these restaurants and refineries at a price that was practically zero." Fatso cursed. "What do you know? That brat took all the money. That was money and banknotes. Just thinking about it makes me sad. If I had known earlier, this fat lord would have done it myself." On a mountain in the misty sword sect, Chu Chaoyan stood at the summit. When he heard the news, he smiled faintly. A gentle breeze blew and his clothes fluttered, making him look like he was floating in the morning. A delicate and pretty girl carrying a sword on her back leaped over from the foot of the mountain. Her figure was exquisite, like a dancing butterfly. Soon, she arrived behind Chu Chaoyan and said, "Senior brother, the sect master wants to see you in the great hall." When Chu Chaoyan saw this girl, he revealed a gentle smile. He nodded gently and followed her down the mountain. After another half a month, another piece of important news came out. Xiao Chun had invested 20 million gold taels in the Flying Snow Manor. As long as someone could kill a noble clan disciple, they could go to the Flying Snow Manor and receive 1,000 gold taels. The higher the rank of the person killed, the higher the reward. If one killed a noble clan heir or someone of equal status, they could receive 5 million gold taels and a medial grade spirit stone. 3 years later, I will personally kill my way to the noble clans that placed bounties on me. I will not go back on my word. Accompanying this piece of news was Xiao Chen's declaration to the various noble clans. The Flying Snow Manor was an assassin organization spread across the entire continent. Aside from the assassins in the manor, some cultivators could also go to the manor to issue or accept missions. However, since the founding of the Great Qin Nation, the Flying Snow Manor had never received such a large number of missions before. Not only was there 20 million gold taels, there was also a rare medial grade spirit stone. It was hard not to be tempted. When the news came out, the world was thrown into an uproar. No one had expected that someone would dare to challenge the noble clans at the same time. These noble clans had existed since the time of the Tianwu dynasty. They had innate bloodlines and inherited martial spirits. Some of them had even existed for tens of thousands of years. Their strength was extremely horrifying. Now there was an insignificant superior grade martial master who dared to challenge them. This made people feel that the world had changed. Dongming Province, Dongming City. This was the center of the entire Dongming Province. It was also one of the most bustling cities in the Great Qin Nation. The streets were bustling with people, and the sounds of people hawking their wares could be heard. Xiao Chun turned into an ordinary-looking youth and slowly walked on the streets. In the past month or so, Xiao Chun had not seen anyone. Aside from making a trip to the Flying Snow Manor, he spent the rest of his time practicing the shape-shifting spell. After a month of bitter practice, he was finally able to use essence without exposing his appearance. If he wanted to reach the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in the Shiha province, the fastest way would be to fly there. However, in the Dongming province, only Dongming City had a relay station that could cross 2 prefectures. Actually, Xiao Chun could use the silver warship to fly to the Shiha province. Its speed would not be slower than the spirit beasts at the relay station. However, there was a very awkward problem. Xiao Chun did not know the way. He did not have any coordinates in the sky. Chapter 133. If Xiao Chun just blindly flew according to the map, he might not be able to fly out of Dongming province in his lifetime. The difference between flying in the sky and on the ground was too great. The maps on the ground could not be used in the sky. The flying relay station of Dongming province was a huge plaza. There were many huge flying spirit beasts in the plaza. Xiao Chun walked straight to the ticket office and spent 1,000 gold taels to buy the most expensive ticket. With such a ticket, he could ride on a spirit beast alone and not have to squeeze with others. Not only was it comfortable, it was also much faster. Xiao Chen took the ticket and walked to a stone platform in the middle of the plaza. There were 3 huge golden eagles on the stone platform. The golden eagles were rank 5 flying spirit beasts. Among the rank 5 spirit beasts, they were the fastest. They were almost at the limit of what humans could tame. In the Great Tang Nation's beast taming abode, there was a rumor that they could tame rank 7 flying spirit beasts. However, no one knew if this rumor was true or not. Xiao Chen paid the ticket and went to the stone platform. Of the 3 golden eagles, only one had a rider sitting on it. Xiao Chen did not think too much about it and walked over. The rider wore a long gray robe and a hood on his head. It made it difficult to see his figure and face. After Xiao Chen sat on it, the golden eagle immediately cried out loudly. It flapped its wings and created a strong gust of wind as it rose from the ground. The golden eagle quickly flew to an altitude of 1,000 meters. The rider suddenly took off the hood on his head and turned to look at Xiao Chen. He smiled gently and said, "Brother Xiao, it has been a long time." When Xiao Chen saw this person's appearance clearly, he was startled and nearly fell off the golden eagle. He did not expect to meet the person in front of him here. He could not figure out how this person recognized him. "Feng Feixue, why are you here? How did you recognize me?" Xiao Chen said in astonishment. He did not expect to see her here. Feng Feixue tossed the hood in her hand into the air and smiled faintly. Her pretty face bloomed like a flower as she said, "I came to send you off. No matter what you look like, I will be able to find you in the crowd." After Xiao Chen recovered from his astonishment, he revealed a relaxed smile. He could not help but feel surprised in his heart as he asked, "Cousin Yulan and the rest went to the Heavenly Qin School?" Feng Feixue changed her posture and turned around completely. She was now closer to Xiao Chen. She revealed a mischievous smile and said, "We have arrived. Everything should be going smoothly. She told me to tell you to take care of yourself. She will come and look for you in 4 years." When Xiao Chen heard this, his heart skipped a beat. Cousin Yulan would look for him in 4 years. He could not help but ask himself if it was too heartless for him to just leave like that. He could not help but ask himself if he was too heartless when it came to relationships between men and women. Although he was stupid, he could clearly feel that Cousin Yulan's feelings for him surpassed that of a normal relationship. However, in his heart, he had never set the Xiao clan as his final destination. He had already made up his mind long ago that he would leave the Xiao clan sooner or later. He did not want to leave behind any worries or restraints when he left. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen could not help but smile bitterly. Back then, he had left in a carefree manner. However, could the people and the matters there be forgotten so easily? Humans were not plants or trees. How could they be emotionless? Who would truly not understand emotions? Who would truly like to be alone? To be enemies with the world? To be filled with killing intent at every step? Feng Feixue stretched out her hand. There was a recommendation letter in her lily-white hand. She said, "The annual examination of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has already passed. If you want to enter the inner sect, you will have to enter step by step from the outer sect. It will take a lot of time. This recommendation letter should be able to help you, right?" Xiao Chen did not stretch out his hand to receive it. He looked straight into Feng Feixue's eyes, as though he wanted to see through her. After a while he muttered to himself, "Feng Feixue, I think it is time for you to tell me everything. What is your relationship with my Xiao clan? Why are you taking care of me?" From the first time Xiao Chen met Feng Feixue at Regretful Iron, Feng Feixue had sold the Blue Dragon medicine cauldron to him at a low price. Every time they met, Feng Feixue would intentionally or unintentionally express her goodwill. Xiao Chen did not believe that there would be people in this world who would be nice to you for no reason, unless that person was your relative. Even if it was a relative, only parents would be nice to their children without asking for anything. When Feng Feixue heard this, she smiled faintly. "Is this important? If you want to know, you can go to the imperial capital at any time. You will find your answer there." Xiao Chen felt suspicious. "Why must I go to the imperial capital? Can't you tell me now?" Feng Feixue smiled tactfully. "As the saying goes, words have no proof. I can make up a reason now, and you will not be able to find any flaws in it. There are some things that, if you do not go to the imperial capital, I will not be able to explain it to you. The person involved will explain it to you. That would be the most reasonable. Xiao Chun frowned as he carefully thought about the meaning of Feng Feishua's words. It was very complicated, like a spider's web. There was no way for him to make sense of it. The meaning of Feng Feishua's words was still unfathomable. Why must he go to the imperial capital? Is there anyone in the imperial capital that is worth meeting? Feng Feishua stuffed the recommendation letter into Xiao Chun's hands and said, "No matter what you think, it does not matter if I am repaying a favor or paying a debt. The Feng clan will never force you on anything. Even if the world does not accept you, the doors of the Feng clan will always be open to you. I will send you here. I cannot really go to Shiha province, although I really want to be with you. Ha, goodbye. The Golden Eagle will send you there on its own. There is no need to worry." Feng Feishua smiled, leaving behind a melodious laughter that lingered in the air. She jumped down from the Golden Eagle's back, and a fiery red lotus flower bloomed under her feet, carrying her into the distance. Xiao Chun looked at the recommendation letter in his hands, then at the distant Feng Feishua. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. In the end, I am still confused. However, it is still good to know the news of cousin Yulan. The Golden Eagle continued flying in the air. Xiao Chun was somewhat bored, so he took out the exquisite copper bell that he bought the previous time. He had been practicing the shape-shifting technique for the past month, and had forgotten about this copper bell. Holding the copper bell in his hand, Xiao Chun gently knocked on it. The copper bell gave off a melodious sound. The sound was very pleasant to the ear, but there was nothing strange about it. This was a secret treasure, Xiao Chun was certain of it. Unfortunately, the formations and daos within it were all damaged. The space within the secret treasure was chaotic. Xiao Chun's spiritual sense was unable to enter it. The last time he tried to probe it, he suffered a heavy blow. This caused Xiao Chun to not dare to try it casually. Since Xiao Chun's spiritual sense was unable to enter, he was unable to find out the extent of the damage to the formations. Thus, he did not know how to repair it. This copper bell should be a very strong secret treasure. It was a pity that it met with such a situation. Suddenly, an intense cold wind blew in front of Xiao Chun. That cold wind instantly turned into a horrifying whirlwind. He could faintly make out the figure of a white dragon. Whistling sounds came from within, like countless people shouting, "Pussy-eye." Suddenly, an intense wind blew from high in the sky. Xiao Chun, who was thinking about the copper bell, did not notice it. By the time he reacted, the wind had already swept him off the Golden Eagle. What's going on? Xiao Chun was alarmed. This wind was very strong. When Xiao Chun was swept up in it, he could not circulate his essence at all. He struggled futilely in the air, drifting left and right. Xiao Chun's body was tossed high up in the air, and then thrown down in the next moment. It was like he was flying in the clouds, going up and down. He could not resist at all. The cold wind was bone-chilling. When Xiao Chun felt it, it felt like he was being cut by a knife. It was incomparably painful. Xiao Chun cried out in alarm. However, under the power of nature, he could not resist at all. In the cold wind, Xiao Chun's body kept swaying. He saw a pair of cold eyes filled with boundless resentment. It turned into a cold wind that drilled into his mind. When the Golden Eagle saw the situation, it let out a sharp cry. It circled in the air and rushed towards the wind, trying to catch Xiao Chun. However, the tacit understanding between Xiao Chun and the Golden Eagle was insufficient. The Golden Eagle's huge body carried a huge force as it broke through the wind and smashed into Xiao Chun's body. The dizzy Xiao Chun was in an even more precarious situation when he was hit. The Golden Eagle knocked Xiao Chun out of the wind. Xiao Chun, who was in the air, could not circulate his essence smoothly. He fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. It's over. I actually met with a white dragon storm. I won't fall to my death, right? Xiao Chun turned pale with fright. He wanted to release the silver warship from his spiritual sense. However, the strange cold chi in the air had already invaded Xiao Chun's mind. Just as he used his spiritual sense, an intense pain came from his mind. It was like countless steel needles pierced his mind. It was extremely painful, preventing him from concentrating. The so-called White Dragon Storm was a high-altitude storm that frequently appeared in the sky between Dongming Province and Shihe Province. The formation of this storm had always been a mystery. In the distant legends, a strong white dragon once died in battle in the sky during the ancient era. After the white dragon died, its dragon soul did not disperse. It kept roaming the sky. The storm was also formed by the white dragon. Because someone once saw a huge white dragon in the storm, this storm was called the White Dragon Storm. On the way here, Xiaochen had already heard of the legend of the White Dragon Storm. However, he did not take it to heart. This was because although the White Dragon Storm was horrifying, it had not appeared for decades. He did not expect his luck to be so bad. On the ground, a clear river appeared before Xiaochen's eyes. This caused his originally despaired face to reveal a trace of joy. However, the pain in his mind became more intense. A boundless essence filled his chest. This resentment seemed to have lasted for tens of thousands of years. It was like a 500-kilogram boulder was pressing on his heart. He felt like he was suffocating. There was a loud plop, and Xiaochen's body fell from a height of several kilometers. He fell straight into the water. Falling from such a high place, even on the soft water surface, produced a huge impact. Even though Xiaochen's physical body was extremely strong, his internal organs still churned. He vomited a mouthful of blood and fainted with a pale complexion. Chapter 134. Xiaochen's body slowly sank into the river and flowed downstream. The blue dragon was fond of water. The instant Xiaochen fainted, it automatically breathed in and out. Hence, Xiaochen did not drown in the river. This continued for 3 days. The resentment in Xiaochen's mind did not disappear. Hence, he did not wake up and continued to struggle with the resentment. Finally, Xiaochen's body flowed to the bottom of a pool and stopped flowing. There was a special cold qi in the cold pool. Xiaochen lay at the bottom of the pool. The cold qi flowed through his skin and entered Xiaochen's body. This cold qi was different from the cold qi in the White Dragon Burst. It was not as tyrannical. Instead, it calmed one down. Under the nourishment of this cold qi, Xiaochen slowly opened his eyes. However, the resentment in his mind did not disappear. It tortured him continuously, causing him incomparable pain and preventing him from moving. Xiaochen felt like he was going crazy. Countless roars resounded in his mind. That white dragon seemed to be roaring beside his ear. He could not get rid of it, he could not kill it. Xiaochen did his best to calm himself down. He slowly circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, hoping that it could resist this strange feeling. After a while, the essence slowly circulated in his body. The feeling in Xiaochen's mind improved significantly. He could not help but rejoice. Pussy. Just as Xiaochen was about to relax, the pain in his mind suddenly increased by several times. It was so painful that he wanted to cry out. However, he could not open his mouth in the water. The essence in his body immediately went out of control. The essence started to circulate chaotically in his meridians. Some of the essence even started to flow uncontrollably in the opposite direction. A horrifying phrase appeared in Xiaochen's mind. Berserking Qi Deviation. To every cultivator, berserking Qi Deviation was a calamity. It was a phrase that would cause one's expression to change at the mention of it. If one could not find a reasonable solution, one's cultivation would be severely damaged. In serious cases, one's life would be in danger. With Xiaochen's current realm, the term qi deviation could be said to be completely out of his reach. As of now, he was only a superior grade martial master. Many of the meridians in his body had not been opened yet. The routes for his essence to circulate were limited. He did not meet the requirements for qi deviation at all. Normally, qi deviation would only occur when one's cultivation had reached the late-stage martial honor realm, and more than half of the meridians in one's body had been opened. But because of the extremely strange resentment in his mind, it caused the true qi in his body to circulate chaotically, causing his meridians to flow in the opposite direction and go out of control. This was obviously the prelude to qi deviation. Xiaochen was very anxious, but the pain in his head prevented him from concentrating. There was nothing he could do about the chaotic essence in his body. Pupiyu. At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped down from the water. Xiaochen saw a blurry figure through the hazy water. It was a beautiful naked body swimming wantonly on the water surface. Xiaochen, who had never seen such a scene before, was immediately captivated. His attention instantly became focused. After Xiaochen focused, the chaotic essence in his body started to slowly calm down. This surprised Xiaochen. He circulated the purple thunder divine incantation once again, and the pain in his head started to slowly disappear. Hualala! Water splashed and the girl on the surface of the water slowly swam down with her eyes closed. Xiaochen was astonished. The direction in which the girl swam down was right in front of him. As the distance got closer, the hazy feeling in the water slowly disappeared. The beautiful body of the girl appeared clearly in front of him. Disappointingly, a certain part of Xiaochen's body had a reaction. Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes. At the bottom of the pool, Xiaochen and the girl were almost facing each other. They looked at each other in astonishment. For a moment, everything was silent. It was like the world was left with the sound of their heartbeats. The two of them just looked at each other without doing anything. The girl suddenly reacted. Her face flushed red, and the ring on her right hand flickered. Suddenly, a slender saber about 2 fingers wide appeared in her hand. The saber gave off heat, and the river water instantly evaporated. Countless bubbles rose from the pool. Boom! The water around her did not seem to be able to stop her movements. The saber moved quickly in the water, heading for Xiaochen's neck. Xiaochen was startled. Under the threat of death, his body, which could not move, suddenly dodged to the side. The saber split the water apart and struck the mud at the bottom of the pool, creating a large bubble. The girl's body was as agile as a fish in the water. In an instant, she caught up to Xiaochen and sent another saber strike at him. Now that he could move again, Xiaochen immediately executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. He was like a flood dragon, leaping out of the water with a so sound. When the fresh air hit him, Xiaochen took a deep breath. Putong! After that, the girl's body also leaped out of the water, creating a large splash. The splash of water was like a saber strike at Xiaochen. Xiaochen did not dare to receive it head-on. He pushed off the water and landed firmly on the shore. The girl took advantage of this opportunity to grab the clothes on the shore. She quickly put them on in midair. By the time she landed, she was completely dressed, completely covering her body. When all the splashes of water fell into the pool, the surface of the water had calmed down. Xiaochen finally saw the girl's appearance. Her long, wet black hair flowed down her back. She wore a fiery red dress. Her voluptuous figure stood proudly on top of her exquisite figure. Her skin was as smooth as jade. She was like a lotus that had just emerged from the water, untainted by a speck of dust. This was a girl with a devilish figure and an angelic face. However, the girl was incomparably furious. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes looked like they were about to spit fire. Her red lips moved slightly, and a melodious voice came from her peach-like mouth. Damn perverted thief, you actually dared to peek at this lady bathing. The saber in her hand trembled slightly, giving off a melodious sound. It was as though it felt the anger of its owner. It could not stop shaking, and there were countless echoes in the air. Listening to the sword and communicating with it, Xiaochen was incomparably astonished. This girl was actually the same as Ao Jiao. Her comprehension of weapons had also reached the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it. This was a state that many martial kings could only dream of. However, the current situation did not give Xiaochen any time to be astonished. This was because the girl had already crossed the water with the saber in her hand. In an instant, she arrived before him. A resplendent light lit up on the saber. This was a technique that only martial grand masters could grasp. Essence infused into the saber, forming a saber light. Drawing the saber, Xiaochen quickly drew his saber. The lunar shadow saber clashed with the saber light sent out by the girl. There was a loud sound, and the huge force contained in the saber light sent Xiaochen flying. Xiaochen was incomparably astonished. This was the first time he had been defeated by a martial grand master in terms of strength. Furthermore, it was under the situation of him using drawing the saber. Executing the blue dragon cloud soaring art, Xiaochen's body paused strangely in the air. Then he moved backward from a different angle. In a certain sense, this girl had saved Xiao Chen's life. However, Xiao Chen had no way of explaining it to her. The girl was currently in a fit of anger, so she would not be able to explain it clearly. For now, he would have to bear the title of perverted thief. He could only explain it to her in the future. Boom. Just when Xiao Chen thought that he would be able to shake off the girl by executing the blue dragon cloud soaring art, he discovered that the girl had appeared behind him like a ghost. A horrifying saber light hacked at him once again. Although Xiao Chen was astonished, he did not panic. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. His figure soared through the air, moving left and right. He was like a soaring blue dragon, dancing on the ground. Boom, 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 boom. However, the girl's body was like rubber, sticking to Xiao Chen's back. The horrifying saber light hacked at him continuously. There were a few times when he was nearly struck by the saber light. Damn perverted thief. If you have the guts, then stand still and fight to the death with this lady. If you are a man, then don't run. The girl scolded loudly as she attacked. When the saber light landed on the ground, it formed many small ravines. If one looked carefully, they would discover that these ravines seemed to have a strange charm to them. Xiao Chen walked for a few hundred meters, but he was still unable to shake off the girl's figure. He suddenly thought of one of the 6 secret techniques of the Battle Sage Origins, sticky character technique. No matter how fast the opponent was, as long as he used the sticky character technique, he would be able to catch up to the opponent. It was the most miraculous movement technique in the world. Xiao Chen could not help but be alarmed. If that was really the case, then he would not be able to shake off this girl, unless his blue dragon cloud soaring art reached great perfection. This won't do. She will catch up to me sooner or later, Xiao Chen thought anxiously in his heart. After dodging another saber light, an idea appeared in his mind. Xiao Chen suddenly turned around quickly and looked at the girl. He said, "Look into my eyes." The girl's saber paused. It was obvious that she was stunned by Xiao Chen's sudden action. Who? A purple flame suddenly shot out from Xiao Chen's right eye. Bastard! When the saber light shot out, the girl was shocked for a moment. Then, she immediately swung her saber at the purple flame. A huge explosion resounded, forming a surging shockwave. The girl was forced back. When the shockwave scattered, Xiao Chen had already executed the lightning evasion. He leaped a few hundred meters and summoned the silver warship, soaring into the sky. When the young girl thought of Xiao Chen's earlier action, she could not help but scold herself for being foolish. He asked you to look, and you just look? You could have just chopped him to death. Why are you wasting your breath on him? I have offended you today. I will definitely repay you for saving my life in the future. Furthermore, I am really not a perverted thief. I hope you do not misunderstand. Xiao Chen's voice came from high up in the sky. The girl stomped her feet angrily. Her face turned red as she watched Xiao Chen leave. She scolded. You still say you are not a perverted thief? Even your worship is silver. With one look, I can tell you are not a good person. Miss, what's wrong? Are you all right? Not long after Xiao Chen left, 2 female martial saints rushed over. The girl looked in the direction that Xiao Chen left in and said, I'm fine. I just met a scoundrel. Xiao Chen piloted the silver warship and flew in the sky. He did not hear what the girl said. Otherwise, he would have dyed the silver warship a new color. Not long after, Xiao Chen saw a large road and stopped. Now many people knew that Xiao Chen had a silver warship. It was better not to use it unless it was necessary. Chapter 135. I wonder where this place is and if I have reached Shiha province, Xiao Chen said as he landed firmly on the ground and looked at the empty road. Xiao Chen looked at the road carefully. There were clear footprints and car tracks on the road. This meant that there were many people on this road. It was just that there was no one there at the moment. After carefully checking the condition of his body and confirming that there were no major problems, Xiao Chen then walked forward. The earlier experience was still fresh in his mind, causing him to be fearful. He did not dare to be careless. Why did he meet the white dragon storm that had not appeared for decades? Xiao Chen could not figure out what was going on. The overwhelming resentment in his mind and the unforgettable pain made him feel that this was not a coincidence. White dragon, blue dragon. Could there be a connection between the two? Xiao Chen thought suspiciously in his heart. He had not completely grasped the blue dragon martial spirit in his body. He did not know what use it had. Seeing that there was no one around, Xiao Chen stopped. With a thought, the blue dragon martial spirit in his body slowly swam out of his dantian. It followed the meridians and headed for Xiao Chen's arm. Everywhere it passed, Xiao Chen felt a horrifying energy. Under Xiao Chen's control, the tiny blue dragon martial spirit came out and circled above Xiao Chen's palm. After a cultivator reached the martial master realm, they could let their martial spirit leave their body. In battle, they could achieve unexpected results. However, after the martial spirit left their body, if they were injured, they could become a cripple. Unless it was the last resort, no cultivator would release their martial spirit. Unless a cultivator reached the martial king realm and cultivated their martial spirit to an immortal level, even if it was destroyed outside the body, it could be recovered immediately. Xiao Chen looked at the tiny blue dragon circling in his hand. He could not understand it no matter how he thought about it. Aside from the energy you provide me and being stronger than normal martial spirits, I can't see any difference between you, an ancient holy beast, and other martial spirits. Shaking his head, Xiao Chen recollected his thoughts. He recalled the blue dragon martial spirit back into his body, and stopped thinking about this problem. The blue dragon martial spirit had been lost for 1,000 years. It was impossible to understand it immediately. There was no point in thinking about it. Xiao Chen continued walking forward. After an hour, he finally met a passerby. He quickly asked this passerby where he was, and whether he had reached Shiha province. The person held a sword in his hand, and was dressed in white without a speck of dust. He answered without turning his head. Shiha province, Yuluo continent, Yunyang county city. Xiao Chen ignored the attitude of this person. He recalled the map he saw in the past. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was located in the Yuluo continent. It was not far from Yunyang city. Even on foot, it would only take 2 weeks. Joy appeared on Xiao Chen's face as he extended his spiritual sense in a straight line. Finally, he saw a majestic city at the end of his spiritual sense. There were 2 bold words Yunyang, written on the city gates. It had an ancient charm to it. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and pushed off the ground with his feet. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and kicked up a cloud of dust. Xiao Chen dashed forward and caught up to the person who spoke earlier in the blink of an eye. He overtook him like the wind, kicking up a large cloud of dust. I did not expect him to be an expert, the white-clothed person said indifferently as he looked in the direction Xiao Chen left. This person did not seem to make any movements, but when the dust landed on his clothes, it automatically slid off. The white-clothed person slowly walked out of the cloud of dust. His white clothes were not tainted by a speck of dust. Xiao Chen felt a strong gaze sweep past him. Then it quickly disappeared. When he turned his head back, he did not discover anything. He only saw the cloud of dust he kicked up as he dashed forward. Yunyang City was already in front of him. Xiao Chen slowed down and slowly walked to the city gates. However, he discovered that there were many young girls standing in front of the city gates. They stood there like orioles. It was a different kind of scenery when he looked around. Is this the custom of Yunyang City? Xiao Chen said with some doubts. There were so many girls. It was likely that all the young girls in Yunyang City were here. When the group of girls saw Xiao Chen's figure, they were pleasantly surprised and quickly ran over. When they saw Xiao Chen's appearance, all of their faces were filled with disappointment. They cursed and left. Xiao Chen felt it was strange. When the guard at the city gate saw the situation, he smiled and said, "Don't be angry. The girls have been waiting for an entire morning. It is hard to avoid their temper." Xiao Chen paid the entrance tax. When he heard this, he could not help but find it funny. This was very similar to the girls who chased after idols in his previous life. He did not expect there to be such things in this world. He could not help but ask curiously, "Who is so charming that all the girls in Yunyang City came out to welcome him?" The guard at the city gates looked at Xiao Chen in astonishment and said, "You don't even know about this? Today is the annual duel between Mu Qingxue and Leng Liusu. These girls are all here to see Mu Qingxue." This was not the first time Xiaochen had heard of Mu Qingxue. When he heard this name again, it could not help but pique Xiaochen's interest. So he asked the guard about it. The guard was very talkative. When he saw Xiaochen ask about it, he spoke eloquently. Mu Qingxue came from the Night Spirit Palace of the Southern Ridge. He was the young palace lord of the Night Spirit Palace. Together with Ji Chongkong, they were known as the twin stars of the Southern Ridge. Xiaochen's talent was very high, and he became famous at a young age. At the age of 12, aside from Ji Chongkong, no one in the same generation could match him. That year, the two of them left the southern mountains at the same time, and started to challenge young experts from all over the world. Ji Chongkong went to the imperial capital, while Mu Qingxue went to Shihe and Dongming provinces. Among those of the same generation, the two of them were practically invincible. No one was a match for them. However, both of them had been defeated by a woman. Ji Chongkong lost to Princess Yingyu. Mu Qingxue lost to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's little Heavenly Saber, Lung Liusu. 1 year later, Mu Qingxue came to Nanling province again, and fought Lung Liusu. After the two of them exchanged more than 1,000 moves, they ended up in a draw. They agreed to fight again the next year. Just like that, it became a tradition. Every year, Mu Qingxue would come to Yunyang City to duel with Lung Liusu at this time. Aside from Mu Qingxue's outstanding talent, he was also very handsome. After a while, all the girls in Yunyang City came to know of him. Xiaochen smiled faintly and gave his thanks. Then he entered Yunyang City. Regardless of which world it was, the girls all seemed to have the potential to chase after their idols. Lung Liusu, could it be her? A beautiful figure appeared in Xiaochen's mind. After a while, the more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Xiaochen could not help but feel a headache. The purpose of his trip was the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. In the end, before he even reached the mountain, he offended the most beloved daughter of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master. Mu Qingxue is here. As Xiaochen walked, a clamorous cheer came from behind him. Xiaochen turned around and saw a white-clothed man holding a sword. He was surrounded by girls. There was a faint smile on his handsome face as he dealt with them one by one. Xiaochen could not help but feel slightly astonished. This Mu Qingxue was actually the person he asked for directions from earlier. He could not help but smile faintly. This world is really strange. After Xiaochen spoke, he turned around and left. The instant he turned around, he felt a strong gaze staring at him. This time there was no attempt to hide it. The source of that gaze was Mu Qingxue. Xiaochen resisted the urge to turn his head back. After he asked around where Yunyang City's Liushang Pavilion was, he quickly left. Among the crowd, Mu Qingxue, who was surrounded by girls, watched as Xiaochen left. The corner of his mouth curled up into a faint smile. In Xiaochen's left eye, a purple copper mirror floated in the boundless void. The light that the mirror gave off seemed to be able to see through the source of the entire world. That copper mirror flashed in his eye for a moment. No one noticed it. After asking around, Liushang Pavilion did indeed have a branch in Yunyang City. Xiaochen took out a brick VIP card that Fatso gave him before he left. He could not help but sigh. This Fatso was indeed not bragging. No matter where you go, there is a Liushang Pavilion. The Liushang Pavilion in Yunyang City was the same as in Whitewater City. Business was booming. The basics were the same as well. Xiaochen leaped over the first floor and headed for the second floor. A group of cultivators were discussing the duel that was going to take place today. Last year, the two of them fought to a draw. This is the third time they fought to a draw. In the end, Mu Qingxue still lost once. He could not defeat the top expert of our Shihe province. That might not be the case. The previous few times, Lung Liusu had the advantage of a weapon. This time, I heard that Mu Qingxue completed the Heavenly Gate test in the Night Spirit Palace and obtained a damaged holy weapon. I know that. That is a holy sword called Beauty Under the Moonlight. Some time ago, Mu Qingxue tested the sword and personally killed a martial saint. From the looks of it, Beauty Under the Moonlight is not much weaker than Lung Liusu's Flame Soul. They are both half-sages. This is going to be interesting. There were a few cultivators who were very insightful on the first floor. When they spoke, Xiaochen could not help but stop and listen carefully. Make way, make way. Our young master Yan is here. Why are you not making way? Just at this moment, Yan Qianyan led a few servants up the first floor. The people on both sides moved aside. When Xiaochen saw Yan Qianyan, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. He did not expect to see him here. Xiaochen thought of a legend about Fatso. He looked at his crotch and could not help but smile. Xiaochen did not want to cause trouble. When Yan Qianyan walked past him, he moved aside and made way for him. Yan Qianyan brought his men and walked past Xiaochen. He hurriedly glanced at Xiaochen and took 2 steps before turning back. Why do I find you somewhat familiar? Have we met before? Yan Qianyan asked carefully as he stared into Xiaochen's eyes. Xiaochen was not worried. Aside from changing one's appearance, the shape-shifting spell could also change a person's aura and voice. He smiled and said, Maybe I met you once in the crowd. It is not strange to find you familiar. Yan Qianyan smiled faintly and thought for a while before saying, That's true. Maybe we met once. Or maybe I recognized the wrong person. Goodbye. Boom. Yan Qianyan, who had not taken a step forward, suddenly turned around and kicked at Xiaochen's chest. Xiaochen revealed a cold smile and did not resist. His abdomen shrank slightly. Bang! The might of Yan Qianyan's kick was very strong. It sent Xiaochen flying. However, because Xiaochen was prepared, he only suffered some superficial wounds. Chapter 136. Yan Qianyan frowned slightly, feeling it was strange. After a while he tossed out a banknote and said, I'm sorry, I think I might have recognized the wrong person. After Yan Qianyan left for a long time, the second floor became noisy again. A kind-hearted cultivator helped Xiaochen up and said, Little brother, are you all right? Xiaochen picked up the banknote and smiled faintly. I'm fine. I was beaten up for no reason. However, I picked up a banknote worth 1,000 silver taels, so it's fine. On the third floor, in front of a hidden window, Yan Qianyan looked at Xiaochen's expression after he got up. He said doubtfully, Could I have seen wrong? However, I clearly did not see wrongly from his gaze earlier. He observed for a long time, but in the end he could not find anything wrong. He shook his head, unable to figure it out. He said to the people beside him, There is something wrong with that brat. You guys go out and take a look. Young Master Lung and I still have matters to attend to, so we will take our leave first. Xiaochen's spiritual sense had been following behind Yan Qianyan. When he withdrew his spiritual sense, he could not help but sigh in his heart. It looks like this fellow suffered a huge blow the last time. He is already in such a state, yet he can still recognize me. Not long after, all the cultivators on the second floor left. Xiaochen knew that the duel between Lung Liusu and Mu Qingxue was about to begin. This group of people had been looking forward to it for a year. There was no reason for them to not go and watch. Xiaochen was not in a rush to leave. He did not want to participate in the duel between Mu Qingxue and Lung Liusu. Mu Qingxue gave him a very dangerous feeling. That feeling was only felt when he faced Chu Chaoyan. As for Lung Liusu, there was no need to even mention it. After eating, Xiaochen casually glanced at the third floor. He revealed a mocking smile and called the waiter over. He prepared to pay the bill and leave. On the third floor, a few of Yan Qianyan's attendants were watching Xiaochen carefully. When the waiter went over to collect the money, he happened to block Xiaochen's figure. After he collected the money, cleaned up the leftover food on the table, and left, they strangely discovered that Xiaochen had disappeared. Where is he? Where did he go? I clearly saw him there just now. Why did I not see the waiter after he went over? Seeing Xiaochen disappear right before their eyes, they turned pale with fright and hurriedly ran down. One of them grabbed the waiter's clothes and shouted, Where is he? Where did that person go? The waiter rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, After eating and paying, of course he's leaving. I'm asking how you left. The waiter pushed his hand away and said snappily, I'll only say it once. Leave with your feet. Don't disturb me again. Thank you. The waiter's attitude made the man anxious. He wanted to make a move on the spot. A few people quickly stopped him and explained the background of Liushang Pavilion to him. The few of them looked around, but they could not find any traces of Xiaochun. They all thought that Xiaochun had already left Liushang Pavilion. Thinking of Yan Qianyun's instructions, they quickly gave chase. Using the shape-shifting spell, Xiaochun shrunk his body and stuck it to the bottom of the dining table. Seeing the four of them go far away, Xiaochun jumped out. His body gave off a crackling sound as he returned to his normal height. He extended out his spiritual sense and discovered that Yan Qianyun was on the 5th floor with a black-clothed man. That black-clothed man was extremely strong. His aura was much stronger than Yan Qianyun's. He was like an unsheathed treasured saber. Xiaochun did not dare to get too close with his spiritual sense. After thinking for a while, Xiaochun headed directly to the 4th floor. He flashed the VIP card that Fatso gave him. His path was unimpeded. What made Xiaochun slightly astonished was that there was no one on the 3rd and 4th floors. It looked like the duel between Leng Liusu and Mu Qingxue was very attractive. Xiaochun arrived at the staircase between the 4th and 5th floor. This was the only way from the 5th floor to the 4th floor. He looked carefully and took out 2 grade 3 talismans from his universe ring. After that, he sprinkled some spirit beast saliva on them. This kind of saliva was very sticky. Once it came in contact with it, it would be impossible to tear it off. After doing all this, Xiaochun found a booth on the 4th floor and sat down. Brother Leng, is this matter really reliable? Does Leng Liusu really only have 2 martial saints by her side? Yan Qianyun asked solemnly as he looked at the person opposite him from the 5th floor. Xiaochun frowned. What is he trying to do? Could it be that Yan Qianyun wants to make a move on Leng Liusu? With a thought, Xiaochun could not help but focus his spiritual sense. The black-clothed man opposite him had a grave and stern expression as he said, I, Leng Tianyue, have prepared for many years just for this day. Do you think there will be any accidents? Yan Qianyun laughed dryly. This matter is very important. I have to get to the bottom of this. However, let me say this first. I am only responsible for sending people to lure away the 2 martial saints. You can handle the rest yourself. Leng Tianyue's stern face did not reveal any expression. He said indifferently, You just need to lure away the 2 of them. You don't have to care about anything else. I have already told your father about the benefits after this is done. The 2 of them chatted for a long time before a messenger pigeon flew into Leng Tianyue's hands. He removed the note on the pigeon's leg and smiled after a while. It is actually a draw again. Haha, I suddenly understand Mu Qingxue's motive. Let's go, Brother Yan. It is time for us to make our move. The 2 of them got up and walked down the stairs. The instant they went down, they each stepped on a talisman. The talisman was as light as a feather and stuck to the bottom of their shoes. They did not feel anything at all. Seeing the 2 of them leave, Xiaochun smiled faintly and slowly stood up. His spiritual sense turned into a strand of silk, entangling the 2 of them. Should I get involved in this mess? Xiaochun said with some apprehension in his heart. This person with the surname Leng was obviously someone from within the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The fight in front of him was a fight for the inheritance of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Every strong power had countless factions. Xiaochun did not find this strange. Even if he saw it, he would not care. However, if Leng Liusu was the girl from earlier, it would be inexcusable if he did not help her. In the end, Xiaochun made up his mind. If she is really that girl, it would be good to repay this favor. Xiaochun followed the 2 of them from a distance. Due to the aid of his spiritual sense, Xiaochun could easily follow the 2 of them. After a while, he followed them out of the east gate. The further they went, the more they deviated. Eventually, they could not see anyone on the main road. Xiaochun felt that something was wrong. After hesitating for a while, he decided to follow them. After taking a few steps forward, he discovered Leng Tianyue and Yan Qianyun looking at him with a smile on their faces. Leng Tianyue slowly walked over. There was no expression on his grave and stern face. He said coldly, Who sent you? Yan Qianyun, who was at the side, smiled. Brother Leng, leave this person to me. He is here for me. You just need to take the token and inform them. Leng Tianyue glanced at Xiaochun. When he saw that he was only a superior grade martial master, he relaxed. As a medial grade martial grandmaster, Yan Qianyan should be able to kill this person easily. Let's meet up soon after we are done. After Leng Tianyue left, Yan Qianyan slowly walked over to Xiaochen. He smiled coldly. Xiaochen, I did not expect to meet you here. I have waited for this day for a long time. How do you want to die? Xiaochen muttered to himself for a while before saying, I have a question. How did you recognize me? I felt that I had hidden myself very well. How did you discover me? Yan Qianyan faced the sky and laughed loudly. He said, I will never forget the look you gave me that day. Before you die, I will let you understand. Leng Tianyue has a secret treasure on him. When you walked out of Liushang Pavilion, he already discovered you. Xiaochen nodded. So that's how it is. I wonder what kind of secret treasure it is to be able to discover me from so far away. However, this was no longer important. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said gently to Yan Qianyan, Many thanks for your explanation. You can die now. Yan Qianyan snorted coldly. He felt that it was funny and said, Do you really think you are a match for me? I explode. Before Yan Qianyan could finish speaking, Xiaochen formed a hand seal, and the rank 3 fire cloud talisman under Yan Qianyan's feet exploded. A flame carrying a surging shockwave spread out in all directions. The huge might blasted Yan Qianyan into the sky. Being struck by a rank 3 offensive talisman was equivalent to the full-powered strike of a peak martial grandmaster. Yan Qianyan was caught off guard and immediately lost all his combat prowess. Using drawing the saber, Xiaochen leaped into the air. There was a flash of saber light and a swarthy black head separated from the charred body. After that, it fell to the ground with a bang. Xiaochen landed firmly on the ground and looked expressionlessly at Yan Qianyan's corpse. He took off the spatial ring in his hand and took out all the things inside with a huangdang sound. Tens of inferior-grade spirit stones, some medicinal pills, and banknotes fell to the ground. An ancient book entered Xiaochen's eyes. Inherited martial technique, dragon seizing hand. The so-called inherited martial technique could only be practiced by those who inherited the martial spirit. However, Xiaochen had the battle sage origins changing character formula. He could imitate it. He took a quick look and placed it into the universe ring. Closing his eyes, Xiaochen felt the talisman under Leng Tianyue's feet. That talisman had Xiaochen's essence blood imprinted on it. Even from 1,000 kilometers away, he could still feel it clearly. A faint yellow dot appeared in his mind. Xiaochen opened his eyes and summoned out the silver warship. He leaped onto it and flew off like a bolt of silver lightning. After a while, Xiaochen arrived at where Leng Tianyue was. Because he was afraid of his secret treasure, Xiaochen hid in a cloud and observed the situation on the ground. On the ground, Leng Tianyue wore a black veil as he stood there quietly. In front of him, there were 4 martial grand masters wearing the same veil surrounding Leng Liusu. In the cloud, Xiaochen used his spiritual sense to sense the situation on the ground. After he looked carefully at the appearance of the girl, he finally confirmed that the person being surrounded was indeed the girl he met in the pool of water. If they want to kill a peak martial grandmaster with an inherited martial spirit, this lineup is not enough. Xiaochen stood at the bow of the warship and said doubtfully, They need at least 2 martial saints to be absolutely safe. Chapter 137. Slowly, Xiaochen figured out something. These 4 martial grand masters had a set of joint martial techniques. Every move was connected. Furthermore, they had practiced it for a long time. Their coordination was very good. Saber lights flickered and energy flew everywhere. Explosive shouts came from the battlefield. The slender saber in Leng Liusu's hand gave off a horrifying light. The wind howled and dust flew everywhere. Small cracks appeared on the ground. As the saber moved, there seemed to be a trace of the Tao, giving off the faint might of a sage. Leng Liusu's figure was surrounded by the 4. She dodged left and right, continuously using the sticky character technique. However, she was still unable to break out of their encirclement. However, she did not show any panic on her face. She swung her saber and the saber light paused, blocking the joint attack of the 4. Then she looked at Leng Tianyue, who was standing at the side. A cold chi appeared on her pretty face as she said in a sullen voice, Leng Tianyue, Do you really want to kill me that badly? Is the position of successor so attractive to you? Are you not afraid of your father punishing you after he finds out about all this? Lung Tianyue's expression could not be seen under the veil. He did not reply to Lung Liusu's question and said indifferently, "Trash? This is a joint martial technique that can easily take down a martial saint. It has been almost half an hour, and you still have not taken her down?" When the four heard Lung Tianyue's reprimand, they could not help but increase the strength in their hands. They launched even more ferocious attacks at Lung Liusu. Phoenix Cry, Dragon Roar, Tiger Roar, Black Tortoise. When the four saw that they could not take her down after a long time, they steeled their hearts and shouted. They leaped up from the ground. They executed the most ferocious move of their joint martial technique. Four images materialized on their weapons: Divine Phoenix, Blue Dragon, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise. These ancient holy beasts appeared in the formation, as though they came to life. 4 images into one. Countless holy beast cries resounded. When the faint might of the holy beasts merged together, it felt like it was suffocating. Even the air seemed to have solidified under this might. Xiaochen stood at the bow of the warship. He was mildly astonished. He looked carefully for a while, and finally discovered that the martial spirits of these 4 people had a trace of the bloodline of holy beasts. Although it was very diluted, when released together, the power was still incomparably terrifying. He really did not know where Lung Tianyue found these 4 people. Looking at their coordination, they should have trained together since they were young. Lung Liusu frowned slightly. Her red dress fluttered in the strong wind. When she saw the 4 divine beasts merge into one, she did not show much fear. The wind howled, her hair danced in the wind, and her long dress flowed like waves. Together with her beautiful face and impressive figure, she stood straight on the ground like an ancient Valkyrie. Flame Soul, Saint's Fury Flame Dance. Lung Liusu held the saber in her right hand and slowly slid it across the palm of her left hand. Fresh blood flowed down the saber and dripped onto the ground. Under the summons of the fresh blood, the ancient sage within the sacred weapon seemed to come alive. As expected, it is a weapon used by a sage. What a formidable aura of righteousness! Xiaochen, who was within the clouds, said in shock. Boom! The flames on the ground burned into the sky. There was a furious roar coming from the red flames. It was like it traveled through time and space, lasting for tens of thousands of years. Lung Liusu stood in the flames. The flickering light of the flames illuminated her flushed face. She leaped into the air, and the saber carried boundless flames as it flew into the sky. Bang! It was like breaking a dead branch. With just one saber strike, the flames that carried the might of a sage instantly shattered. The 4 divine beasts merged into one. The divine phoenix shattered, the black tortoise fled, the blue dragon was chopped, and the white tiger was burned to a pile of ashes. Bang! 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 The 4 of them landed heavily on the ground. Their martial spirits had suffered a fatal blow. Their complexions were incomparably pale, and they would not be able to fight for a short period of time. Kasi. Just at this moment, Lung Tianyue suddenly made his move. A cold light appeared, and with a flash of saber light, Lung Tianyue appeared beside Lung Liusu. This saber strike was extremely fast, and the timing was very accurate. It happened to be the moment when Lung Liusu was exhausted from the might of the sage. If Lung Liusu had a moment to recover, the chances of this saber strike injuring her would be much smaller. Even though Lung Liusu had already anticipated Lung Tianyue's attack, she was unable to dodge it. The saber slashed across, leaving a horrifying wound on Lung Liusu's chest. Blood spurted out wildly into the air. She frowned slightly and revealed a pained expression. She swung the saber in her hand forward ferociously. When the saber struck Lung Tianyue's body, it was like it was striking air. It was only an afterimage left in the air. Lung Tianyue's body had already flashed to her side. He snorted coldly and kicked Lung Liusu, sending her flying to the ground. The force of this kick was very strong. After Lung Liusu landed on the ground, she slid backward continuously. Her saber stabbed into the ground, creating a long ditch. Only then did her body slow down. Lung Tianyue did not say anything. He did not want to give Lung Liusu any chance. His figure flashed in the air as he landed on the ground, and a resplendent saber light appeared on his saber. He chopped at Lung Liusu, who was on the ground. Lung Liusu barely managed to raise her saber to block. However, she could not block it at all. Her body flew back like a cannonball and landed heavily on the ground. Xiao Chen's expression changed. He did not expect the situation on the battlefield to change in such a short period of time. Originally, when he saw Lung Liusu deal with the 4 people, he did not need to make a move. Lightning descend. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and successfully stopped Lung Tianyue from advancing. Xiao Chen executed the changing character formula and imitated Ji Changkong's martial technique. He turned into a meteor and quickly descended to the ground. Lung Tianyue looked at the meteor in the sky and frowned. Nanling Ji clan's martial technique. Ji Changkong is here? That's not right. This is not a pure Ji clan martial technique. Trying to act mysterious. I'll show you your true colors. Lung Tianyue laughed coldly and leaped into the air, leaving behind a series of afterimages. Lung Tianyue's speed was at its peak. The saber lit up and chopped at Xiao Chen. Explode! Xiao Chen revealed himself and shouted. A fiery red firework soared into the sky. Before Lung Tianyue could understand what was going on, he was already blasted into pieces. His body was thrown high into the air by the shockwave. Purple thunder true fire shoot. Looking at Lung Tianyue in the air, Xiao Chen could feel that the rank 3 exploding talisman had completely struck him, but he did not suffer any fatal injuries. Xiao Chen could not help but tighten his heart. A purple flame revolved around his finger and shot towards Lung Tianyue. A layer of protective true qi appeared on Lung Tianyue's body. When the purple flame struck it, it gave off a loud explosion. The shockwave from the explosion threw his body even further into the sky. However, it could not do anything to him. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense pierced through the protective true qi and saw a jade pendant on Lung Tianyue's chest. It gave off a faint glow. This should be his secret treasure. The protective true qi should have come from this secret treasure. Xiao Chen landed on the ground and looked at Lung Liusu, who had lost a lot of blood and was pale. She was so weak that she had fainted. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chen carried her on his shoulder and rushed forward. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and danced on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was already far away. After a long time, Lung Tianyue descended from the sky. His clothes were torn and the scarf on his black face was nowhere to be seen. He struggled to stand up and watched as Xiao Chen carried Lung Liusu away. His eyes revealed a complicated expression as he muttered, "Man proposes, God disposes." He turned around and stabbed the 4 cultivators on the ground. After that, he walked expressionlessly in the direction of Yunyang City. His figure seemed very lonely. Xiao Chen carried Lung Liusu and walked for a long time. When he arrived at a forest, he felt that there were no pursuers behind him. Only then did he stop. He slowly placed Lung Liusu on a big tree. When Xiao Chen saw the horrifying wound on her chest, he was astonished. Lung Tianyue's attack was very ruthless. Not only was it extremely fast, it was shockingly strong as well. The golden armor on Lung Liusu's chest was torn. At this moment it was dyed red with blood. Blood continued to flow out of the wound. Xiao Chen pressed on a few acupoints on Lung Liusu's chest and stopped the bleeding. After that, he slowly removed her outer clothes. In the end, he discovered that this was not very realistic. Lung Liusu was wearing a long red dress. The top and bottom were connected. If he wanted to remove it, he would have to remove the entire dress. Naturally, Xiao Chen could not do something like removing everything. He could only take out a small knife and slowly cut open the cloth. As the clothes were slowly cut open, large patches of snow-white skin appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. It was a little dazzling. Xiao Chen composed himself and carefully cleaned the wound. Some of the cloth was stuck to the wound. Xiao Chen slowly removed it. The unconscious Lung Liusu groaned in pain. Xiao Chen could not help but become gentler. After cleaning the wound, Xiao Chen took out a blood-replenishing pill from the universe ring. After he crushed it, he slowly applied it on the wound. After that, he took out another blood-replenishing pill and fed it to her. After doing all this, Xiao Chen slowly relaxed. Luckily, The wound did not injure her heart. However, the wound was rather deep. With the medicinal strength of the blood replenishing pill, there should not be any problems after it was applied externally. Xiaochen took out a set of clean clothes from the universe ring and draped them over her body. Leng Liusu's pale face looked very weak. Xiaochen suddenly felt that this scene was somewhat familiar. Suddenly, he thought about the time he met Princess Yingyu in Gloomy Forest. She was also like this. No matter how strong a woman was, she would always have a gentle side. Xiaochen took out a bottle of qi returning pills and a bottle of blood replenishing pills. Then, he took out a slip of paper introducing the medicinal pills and placed it beside Leng Liusu. Xiaochen pushed off the ground and leaped onto a large tree at the side. Xiaochen sat down cross-legged and calmed himself down. He entered a state of cultivation and unleashed his aura. The surrounding wandering wild beasts did not dare to get close to him. Time passed quickly and night fell quickly. Although Xiaochen was immersed in a state of cultivation, he still left a strand of his spiritual sense beside Leng Liusu to monitor her condition. "Father, don't go." Chapter 138. In the middle of the night, Xiaochen was sitting on a tree branch when he heard a weak murmur. He slowly descended from the tree and walked to Leng Liusu's side. Leng Liusu's pale face was covered in sweat. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and her breathing was very rapid. It was clear that she was having a nightmare and was under a lot of pressure. Xiaochen placed his hand on her forehead and slowly sent in a gentle stream of essence. Because Xiaochen cultivated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, his essence had a trace of the effects of immortal qi. After a while, Leng Liusu's expression slowly turned gentle. Her breathing slowly stabilized and her eyebrows relaxed. Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief and stopped sending in his essence. He withdrew his hand and prepared to leave. Pooh! Just as Xiaochen released his hand, Leng Liusu grabbed it. Leng Liusu closed her eyes and seemed to be talking in her sleep. "Father, don't go. Don't leave Liusu behind." Her grip was very tight. Xiaochen blushed with shame. He smiled bitterly in his heart. "Girl, you have mistaken me for someone else. Don't grab me so tightly." Xiaochen did his best to pry her hand away. However, he discovered that if he did not use his essence, he would not be able to do so. Even if he used his essence, he was afraid of waking her up. So he could only sit down slowly. He did not dare to make any big movements. He could not even sleep or cultivate. He just stood guard at the side with his eyes wide open. The night sky was heavy in the quiet forest. One could not even see their fingers when they stretched out their hands. Xiaochen sat beside Leng Liusu and listened to her steady breathing. He did not move at all and felt extremely bitter. When the sky was about to brighten, Xiaochen finally felt Leng Liusu's grip loosen a little. He quickly struggled free. Xiaochen checked Leng Liusu's internal injuries again and discovered that they were no longer a problem. She just needed to rest for a while. When Xiaochen stood up, he felt his back aching. He had not slept for the entire night and was clearly fatigued. Xiaochen patted his cheeks and looked to the east. He looked at the white sky and prepared to leave this place. "You unintentionally saved my life. Now, I have saved your life and even accompanied you for a night. We are even." Xiaochen smiled gently as he looked at Leng Liusu. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped, feeling as if he had lost something. He murmured, "Am I worse than a beast? You're a living example of a beautiful woman lying next to you for an entire night. Yet you don't have any reaction at all. That's not right." Xiaochen quickly retreated and looked at Leng Liusu's pretty face. He took a deep breath and quickly planted a kiss on her forehead. After that, he immediately dodged and rushed forward. Leng Liusu, who was in a deep sleep, did not react. When the sky brightened and the first ray of sunlight shone on her face, she slowly woke up. Leng Liusu opened her eyes slightly. She was not used to the piercing light. She looked at the jacket draped over her body and revealed a doubtful expression. "Did someone save me? Who could it be?" Before she fainted yesterday, the last image in Leng Liusu's mind was a bolt of lightning tearing through the sky. She could not remember anything else. She slowly stood up and placed the jacket she was wearing to the side. In the end, she discovered that her jacket was torn beyond recognition, revealing a lot of her skin. She could not help but blush. What surprised her was that the wound on her chest had miraculously healed in just one night. The wound had already scabbed over. Although there was still some numbness, it was clear that it was no longer a problem. Furthermore, it was treated in time. It would not leave any scars in the future. Who saved me? This person should not be from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lung Liusu's heart was filled with questions. If he was, he would definitely be by my side guarding me. Suddenly, she vaguely remembered the dream she had the night before. It seemed like she saw her deceased father appear beside her. She even held his hand and told him not to leave her. It felt like it was real. Lung Liusu took out a set of clothes from her spatial ring. After she changed, she suddenly discovered 2 bottles of medicinal pills on the ground. She bent over and picked them up. When she opened them, a dense medicinal fragrance wafted out. It was clear that these medicinal pills were of a very high grade. She picked up the slip of paper that introduced the medicinal pills and read it carefully. The suspicions in her heart grew stronger. Who was it that saved me? Furthermore, they arranged everything so meticulously. She walked around but did not discover anything. She could not help but feel disappointed. She lowered her head and leaned against the tree again. However, she was astonished to discover that there were indeed traces of someone sitting there. Furthermore, it was not for a short period of time. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was one of the 3 great sects of the Great Qin nation. It had been passed down since the Tianwu dynasty. It had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. In the hearts of the people of the Great Qin nation, it was a holy land. As the name suggested, this was a sect that specialized in saber techniques. The martial techniques of the sect, be it movement techniques or mental cultivation techniques, were all related to saber techniques. It was a holy land for those who studied the saber. The Misty Sword sect was in the east and west, 1 saber and 1 sword. Since ancient times, the saber and the sword had never coexisted. The 2 sects had often fought in history, but the strength of the 2 sects had always been equal, and there was no clear winner. However, in recent years, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had suffered from a mysterious disaster 20 years ago. Many of the experts of the older generation in the sect had died, resulting in their strength dropping significantly. Even so, no one dared to underestimate the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had not lost the martial techniques that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. The system was still there. Sooner or later, they would reach the peak. It was located in the Lingyun mountain range, one of the 4 great mountain ranges in the Great Qin nation. There were 7 large peaks on the mountain, and it was one of the places with the most abundant spiritual energy in the Great Qin nation. If a cultivator cultivated here all year round, their cultivation would advance much faster than elsewhere. Furthermore, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had a perfect martial technique system and countless cultivation resources. As a result, the number of people joining the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was always full every year. At the foot of the Lingyun mountain range, there was a city no smaller than White City, called Saber City. Saber City was a city that belonged directly to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The land, shops, auction houses, and exchanges all belonged to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Saber City was also known as the outer sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Every year, the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would have 1 month to recruit disciples with outstanding talent to enter the inner sect. If one missed this 1 month, they would not have the opportunity to enter the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They could only take the test in the outer sect. There would be an opportunity to advance every half a year. Even the outer sect was not a place that just anyone could enter. Those who had not become a martial master before the age of 15 would not even have the opportunity to take the test. The threshold for the outer sect was already so high. It was easy to imagine how strict the requirements for the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion were. Even so, there would still be a large number of bladesmen entering this place every year. This was already the holy land of all bladesmen. As a bladesman, if they did not go to Saber City, if they did not attempt the famous Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation, if they did not meet the famous bladesmen who lived here, it would be a great regret for them. After Xiao Chun and Lung Liusu parted for half a month, They finally arrived at the famous Saber City. Because they had been wrongly accused along the way, they had wasted a lot of time. Saber City was already in sight. There were many cultivators carrying large sabers on their backs. Some of them carried several sabers on their backs. Xiaochen even saw a few earth-ranked spirit weapons. Before he entered Saber City, he could already feel the atmosphere. The feelings of bladesmen for the saber. In this place, if you did not carry a saber, you would be embarrassed to walk on the road. This was because when Xiaochen walked on the road empty-handed, he was looked down upon. Everyone looked at him with a strange expression. There were even some extreme bladesmen who thought that he was being disrespectful to Saber City. Their gazes revealed killing intent. Xiaochen felt very depressed. For the sake of convenience in combat, Xiaochen did not equip the Lunar Shadow Saber with a scabbard. If he took out the Lunar Shadow Saber now, it would be too inconvenient. In the end, Xiaochen could not stand the gazes of this group of people. He prepared to equip the Lunar Shadow Saber with a scabbard before entering Saber City. Before entering the city, he was already being looked down upon. If he entered the city, he was afraid that someone would challenge him to a duel. On the two sides of Saber City, there were countless weapon shops. There were several sabers placed in front of these weapon shops. Xiaochen asked around and found out that as long as one was strong enough to pick up one of these sabers, they would be able to obtain the saber for free. When Xiaochen heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "This is interesting. I wonder how many sabers I can pick up with my physical strength." However, Xiaochen did not have the time or interest to do so. He casually walked into a weapon shop and looked around. The shop only had sabers. There were no other weapons. There were all sorts of sabers. Horse-chopping sabers, horizontal sabers, padeos, long sabers, thick sabers, and some sabers that Xiaochen did not know the names of. This was an eye-opener for Xiaochen. What was even more surprising was that these sabers all had some moonstone in them. They were all spirit weapons. There were even some profound rank spirit weapons. This was truly shocking. An ordinary shop outside of Saber City actually had so many spirit weapons for sale. Here, spirit weapons were like goods sold at street stalls. There were not many people in the shop. Business was very quiet. Xiaochen looked around for a while, and an idea popped up in his mind. There were so many spirit weapons here. If he casually bought a few and sold them, he would be able to make a huge profit. Xiaochen looked at the shop owner and asked, "Boss, how much are the sabers here?" The shop owner was an old man in his 70s. His skinny face was filled with wrinkles, but he did not look lethargic. He gave off a very spirited feeling. The old man sized up Xiaochen and smiled warmly. "You have not obtained the qualifications to enter the outer sect, right? In that case, you do not have the qualifications to purchase them." Xiaochen was stunned. He did not expect there to be such a rule. He felt like he had been seen through. He smiled awkwardly. "I wonder if I can customize a scabbard?" The old man smiled. "That is possible. Take out your saber, and let me take a look." This old man's attitude was very gentle, making people feel at ease. Xiaochen did not hesitate, and took out the Lunar Shadow Saber and handed it over to the old man. The old man held the Lunar Shadow Saber in his hand and gently caressed it. His expression did not change as he smiled gently. "This is a good saber. I have not seen such a saber in many years. The arc of the saber is somewhere between a katana and a horizontal saber. The control of the flow is near perfect." Chapter 139. It takes into account both the strength and beauty of the saber. It is close to 2 meters long. Without a certain level of skill, one would not dare to forge this saber. It should be the work of a famous person. It has the style of the Haotian sect. Xiaochen was surprised. He did not expect this old man to be able to guess so much just from the saber. However, the Haotian sect had already become a taboo topic. If this old man wanted to test him, Xiaochen might get into trouble. Senior must be joking. The Haotian sect has already been destroyed for such a long time. How could my saber have the style of the Haotian sect? Xiaochen denied. The old man handed the Lunar Shadow Saber to Xiaochen and smiled faintly. "Young man, don't be in a rush to deny anything. I have not confirmed anything yet. You need to remain calm so that you can hide yourself better. If you are in a rush to deny it, you will be exposed even faster. Although the Haotian sect was destroyed, the number of weapons they passed down is still very large. You don't have to worry about this. This old man does not care about these things. Xiao Chen was startled. He received the lunar shadow saber and looked at the old man's warm smile again. He felt a chill run down his spine. He was unfathomable. He smiled embarrassedly. Many thanks for senior's teachings. I wonder how long this scabbard will take to complete. It is just a smelly old man. It is just that he has lived for a long time. It cannot be said to be teachings. I have a ready-made scabbard for your saber. After the old man spoke, he took out a dusty scabbard from the cabinet and wiped it gently. The old man's expression was very solemn. It was as though it was not a scabbard but something he loved the most. After a while, an extremely ancient-looking scabbard appeared before Xiao Chen in its entirety. Xiao Chen received the scabbard. He shook it and the lunar shadow saber entered the scabbard perfectly. The lunar shadow saber instantly disappeared after it entered the scabbard. If not for Xiao Chen holding it in his hand, he would not have been able to feel its existence. The old man revealed a smile. Xiao Chen's face was filled with shock. How could this be a coincidence? This scabbard was simply made for the lunar shadow saber. There was nothing strange about it at all. It was like it had been waiting there quietly for countless years, waiting for the lunar shadow saber to arrive. Xiao Chen recovered from his shock. Although he felt strange, he was very satisfied with this scabbard. He asked, "How much is this scabbard worth?" 10 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiao Chen was stunned for a while. Then he smiled and said, "Senior, did you say it wrong or did I hear it wrong? 10 inferior grade spirit stones is enough to purchase a superior grade profound ranked spirit weapon. How can a scabbard be so expensive? Don't you think it's not worth it?" "Young man, this price is really not expensive at all. Feel it carefully. Don't you feel anything different?" The old man's expression did not change at all. He had a faint smile on his face as he spoke indifferently. Xiao Chen thought hatefully, "This guy is really old and cunning. It's like he's going to eat me alive." Although 10 inferior grade spirit stones was not much to Xiao Chen, it was not something he could casually take out. He had only obtained 20 inferior grade spirit stones from Yan Qianyun's body. In the end, Xiao Chen still handed the 10 inferior grade spirit stones to him. He really liked this scabbard and did not want to miss it. "Young man, since the saber is already sheathed, don't casually draw it out. If anyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion finds out that you possess the Thunder King's inheritance, you will die a miserable death." When Xiao Chen, who had already reached the door, heard this, he suddenly stopped. Cold sweat broke out on his back as he slowly turned around. There was a trace of killing intent in Xiao Chen's eyes as he stared at the smiling old man. His right hand grasped the saber hilt, preparing to draw it at any moment. "Old man, you seem to know too much." Xiao Chen focused all his attention on the old man. His heart was filled with shock. The Thunder King's inheritance was his greatest secret. This secret was even more important than the Blue Dragon martial spirit. The Thunder King had made too many enemies in his life. In his later years, he mysteriously disappeared and finally fell. This left too many questions for the future generations. This old man only took a glance at the lunar shadow saber and discovered Xiao Chen's identity. This was truly shocking. If the secret of him possessing the Thunder King's inheritance was exposed, he would not be strong enough, and he did not have an invincible backer. It would not be that he did not have a place in the Great Qin nation. The entire world would kill him for his treasures. The experts of the older generation would not be able to resist the temptation to make a move. Facing Xiao Chen's undisguised killing intent, the old man's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "Little friend, it seems like you do not respect the old and cherish the young. This is not good." Dang. As soon as the old man finished speaking, the doors in the shop swayed and closed. The moment the doors closed, the space in the shop instantly darkened. Xiao Chen looked around and was horrified to discover that the surrounding shelves seemed to have disappeared. When he looked around, there was only a boundless darkness. He could not see the end. "Kassier." Xiao Chen drew his saber and a cold light flashed on the pitch-black blade of the lunar shadow saber. There was a flash of saber light as he executed drawing the saber. Xiaochen leaped into the air. He decided to make the first move and attack the old man. The old man's expression did not change as he stood in front of him. However, Xiaochen felt that the distance between him and the old man was worlds apart. Xiaochen maintained his posture in the air, holding his saber and leaping into the air. It was like he had crossed a great distance. However, the distance between him and the old man did not close at all. The old man was clearly in front of Xiaochen, but it felt like he was even further away than the horizon, as if there was no end. This place actually materialized a small world. Furthermore, it was a small world that could be controlled. When Xiaochen saw the old man's expressionless face, he was extremely astonished. Could this old man be a sage? Go out and calm down. In the future, you have to learn to respect the old and cherish the young. The old man waved his long sleeves gently, and an irresistible force pushed Xiaochen back. Xiaochen's speed was extremely fast. The sound of the wind whistled in his ears. Bang! It was as if Xiaochen had traversed through countless plains. With a loud boom, he landed on the ground. When he raised his head to take a look, he discovered himself. When he looked up, he discovered that he was lying on the street. There were people coming and going around him, looking at Xiaochen strangely. After being looked at like a fool, Xiaochen quickly got up and checked his body. He discovered that he was not injured at all. It was clear that the old man had held back. Materializing a small world and grasping the laws of space, these were abilities that only sages could have. Was that old man really a sage? Xiaochen felt that it was impossible. This was because the aura that this old man gave him was not much stronger than Yingyu's. At best, he was only a martial monarch. He was definitely not a martial sage. Xiaochen extended out his spiritual sense and closed his eyes. He extended his spiritual sense into the old man's shop. A strong aura appeared in his mind. After a while, Xiaochen discovered the source of that aura. It was a rectangular wooden box in the shop. When Xiaochen tried to extend his spiritual sense into the wooden box, he discovered a formless barrier blocking his spiritual sense. Xiaochen did not give up and tried a few more times. However, he failed every time. Finally, he focused his spiritual sense on the old man's body. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows. He discovered an incomparably shocking phenomenon. Withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiaochen muttered to himself, "This person does not have a martial spirit in his body." However, the aura he gave off clearly indicated that he was once a martial king expert. If that was the case, there could only be one reason. This expert had been severely injured by someone. His martial spirit was destroyed, and he became a cripple. Even so, Xiaochen was still fearful of the old man. If that wooden box did not contain a complete holy weapon, it would be a king-grade attack-type secret treasure. Within the shop, the old man was an undefeatable existence. Xiaochen shook his head. Since the old man did not have any ill intentions, there was no need for him to continue pestering him. After turning around and leaving, Xiaochen still could not calm down. There are so many shops outside of Saber City. Could there be such experts hidden in all of them? With this thought in mind, Xiaochen unknowingly walked into another shop. The owner of the shop was a middle-aged man. Xiaochen's eyes lit up like torches as he stared at this person. He wanted to see if there was anything different about him. "Little brother, are you looking to buy something?" The middle-aged man asked with a trembling voice after being stared at by Xiaochen. Hearing this, Xiaochen recovered his wits. He felt that it was a pity. This person was really just an ordinary shop owner. There was nothing special about him. However, how should he answer the shop owner's question? That was a problem. After all, he already knew that the spirit weapons here would not be sold to outsiders. Xiaochen thought for a while, and decided to ask about Leng Tianyue. After all, he had already committed a heinous crime by assassinating Leng Liusu. He asked in a probing manner, "I want to ask around. Did anything big happen in Saber City recently?" The middle-aged man looked at Xiaochen meaningfully and said, "If you want to talk about big things, there are big things happening in Saber City every day. There is nothing strange about that. However, something startling did happen a few days ago." The shop owner stopped talking. Xiaochen understood tacitly and handed over a banknote. The shop owner received it and casually glanced at it. He discovered it was a banknote for 10,000 silver taels. The shop owner could not help but reveal a joyful expression. He beamed with joy and said, "A few days ago, the first young master of Lingyun Mountain Range's Tianyue Peak, Lung Tianyue, returned from outside and barged into the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation." Indeed, it was about Lung Tianyue. Xiaochen could not help but ask out of curiosity, why did he go to the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation? The shop owner chuckled and said, "Why? Of course it was to draw the saber. There is a rumor in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion that has been passed down for thousands of years. As long as one barges into the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation and draws the subdivine weapon, they can immediately become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion." "Then, did he draw it?" Xiaochen asked interestedly. He did not expect there to be such a thing in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This was very surprising. If someone from the Misty Sword sect managed to draw this saber, would they become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Just thinking about it was interesting. The middle-aged boss sighed and said, "That's a secondary heavenly weapon, second only to heavenly weapons in the world. It can split mountains and rocks, shake the sky, and even sages have to avoid it. How can it be pulled out so easily?" Furthermore, the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation has 81 small formations. They are all interconnected, forming a large formation. It has existed since the ancient era. If one wants to pass through it, not only does one need a cultivation realm, they also need an understanding of saber techniques. Chapter 140. How could he, a peak martial grand master, barge in? He was trapped in the 7th formation, and was eventually rescued by his father. Xiaochen's interest was completely piqued. He quickly asked, "Then what happened after that?" The boss was somewhat confused about what happened after that. He said, "I only heard about what happened after that. Lung Tianyue seemed to have done something wrong. His father wanted to lock him up. In the end, he crippled his own cultivation, and took the initiative to lock himself up in Heavenly Saber Pavilion's saber prison." When he heard this news, Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. Although he did not know why Lung Tianyue locked him up in saber prison, it was good enough that he did not have to meet him. Holding the lunar shadow saber, Xiaochen headed straight for Saber City. After a while he arrived at the city gates and started to pay the entrance tax. The method of paying the entrance tax here made Xiaochen feel astonished. The amount of the tax was actually determined by the weight of the saber the cultivator was carrying. No matter how many sabers you had, no matter what grade they were, how heavy they were, you would have to pay the tax. The saber itself weighs 85 kilograms. The scabbard weighs 70 kilograms. In total, it weighs 155 kilograms. Little brother, you have to pay 1155 silver taels as entrance tax. The two cultivators guarding the gates removed Xiaochen's lunar shadow saber from the scale. They smiled as they spoke to Xiaochen. Xiaochen sweated profusely in his heart. This was extraordinarily expensive. When he saw a brother carrying 7 sabers on his back, he felt even more depressed. He had to pay 10,000 silver taels. However, Xiaochen still had to pay up. He had no other choice. After he paid up, he left. After paying, the guards asked Xiaochen a few questions and recorded his place of birth, name, and age. After that, they handed a form to Xiaochen and said, "Go to the side and make an identity token. In the future, you will not have to pay the entrance tax when entering Saber City with this identity token." Xiaochen smiled gently. "Fortunately, I don't have to pay every time. Otherwise, I would have to deduct all of my assets." The processing of the identity card was relatively simple. After handing in the form and waiting for half an hour, the other party delivered a wooden card. The front side of the card was engraved with Xiaochen's information, and the back side was engraved with a long saber and a mountain peak. After tying the wooden token to his waist, Xiaochen finally entered the famous Saber City. The streets of the city were densely packed with cultivators carrying sabers. An arena could be seen every few hundred meters, and every arena was crowded with people. It was very lively. The martial heaven continent's love for martial arts had reached its pinnacle. Aside from being filled with bladesmen and having many arenas, Saber City was not much different from other cities. Xiaochen inquired about the location of the City Lord's mansion, and quickly walked towards it. The City Lord of Saber City was appointed by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He managed the entire outer sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The position of the City Lord in the sect was second only to those peak masters. He also had a seat in the Elders' Assembly. At the entrance of the City Lord's mansion, Xiaochen handed the recommendation letter that Feng Feishue gave him to the guard. The red recommendation letter had the Feng clan's seal and emblem on it, as well as Feng Feishue's signature. The guard's eyes were pretty good. He was able to tell the authenticity of the recommendation letter very quickly. He told Xiaochen to wait for a while he went to report the matter. Not long after, that person quickly ran over. He smiled apologetically and said, "Brother, the City Lord is currently meeting with an important guest. You might have to wait for a while. Come with me to the side hall to rest first." The attitude of the City Lord's mansion was very humble. Xiaochen did not feel that he was an important person. He smiled faintly and followed the person into the City Lord's mansion with a relaxed expression. After passing through a few courtyards and gardens, Xiaochen was brought to the side hall. The guard immediately took his leave, leaving Xiaochen there alone. Xiaochen waited for a long time. In the reception hall of the City Lord's mansion, Saber City's City Lord, Gu Yunbin, sat on a wooden chair. Separated by a tea table was an old man. He looked at Xiaochen's recommendation letter with an unhappy expression. Behind the two of them stood a youth about 16 or 17 years old. He carried a saber on his back and had a gloomy expression on his face. Occasionally, there would be a trace of hostility in his eyes. The old man placed the recommendation letter on the table and faced Gu Yunbin. He said in a deep voice, "Old Gu, we already agreed on this a week ago. Why did you change your mind at the last minute?" Gu Yunbin smiled faintly. "Old Zhang, don't make things difficult for me. Why don't you take a look at who gave me the recommendation letter? There is Miss Feng's signature on it. I can't not give Miss Feng face." The Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Feng clan have worked together for hundreds of years. They are the ones who provide the materials for the spirit weapons and battle armor in and out of the city. The most important thing is that they are the ones who handle the spirit stones produced by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Feng clan has the authority to recommend people. It was not me who said it. It was the previous pavilion master who said it. Furthermore, this old man also owes Miss Feng a favor. This time, I can return it to her. When old Zhang heard this, he took out a jade bottle with a flip of his palm. He gently opened the bottle cap, and a dense medicinal fragrance instantly spread out. When one smelled it, they felt refreshed. Gu Yunbin's expression changed slightly. He asked, "Old Zhang, is this the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill?" Old Zhang revealed a proud expression and said indifferently, "That's right, it is the rank 7 Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill. After consuming it, it can extend one's lifespan by 20 years. Originally, I intended to give it to old Gu after the matter was over." Gu Yunbin smiled bitterly and said, "Old Zhang, why do you have to do this? With your grandson's talent, as long as he stays in the outer sect for half a year, he will definitely have the opportunity to enter the inner sect. Furthermore, this old man will definitely take care of him. There will be no lack of spirit stones, medicinal pills, and martial techniques." Old Zhang looked at the youth beside him and said, "There is no need to say much about Yeer's talent. However, half a year is too long. He has already wasted 16 years. I do not wish for him to waste any more time." Gu Yunbin got up and started pacing around the hall. He had a conflicted expression on his face. After a while, he finally made up his mind. He said, "I will think of a way. First, I will set up a mission to test this person. If this person does not have any ability, then forget it. If he cannot pass, I will arrange for him to enter the outer sect first. The spot in Tianyue Peak will be reserved for your son. Wait here for a while." After Gu Yunbin spoke, he headed to the side hall. After Gu Yunbin left, old Zhang immediately got up and went to the door. He called an old man over and explained the situation to him. Finally, he instructed, "I do not wish for anything unexpected to happen. Whether Zhang Yi can enter the inner sect of Heavenly Saber Pavilion will affect the position of our Zhang clan in Yunyang City for the next few hundred years. When that person comes out later, keep an eye on him. If he does not complete it, then it is fine. However, if he does, you should know what to do, right? This old man was a medial grade martial saint. After he heard it, he said indifferently, "Clan head, please rest assured. There will not be any problems with such a small matter." In the side hall, just as Xiao Chen's patients ran out, there was the sound of footsteps. The door to the side hall opened, and an old man over 70 years old walked in with great strides. As he walked, he gave off an imposing aura. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense, and was actually unable to sense the strength of this person. It was like his spiritual sense had sunk into the vast ocean. It was unfathomable. He could not help but feel astonished. When Gu Yunbin saw Xiao Chen, he smiled gently and said, my apologies, my apologies. I have something to do and have made little brother wait. Please don't take offense." As he spoke, he sized up Xiao Chen. When his gaze landed on Xiao Chen's body, Xiao Chen felt like he had been completely seen through. He could no longer keep any secrets. However, Xiao Chen did not panic. He had just seen a fake sage. This situation was nothing compared to what he had seen earlier. Xiao Chen stood up and performed a cupped fist salute. He said respectfully, "Greetings, senior. As a junior, there is no harm in waiting." Gu Yunbin nodded to himself. Although Xiao Chen was only a superior grade martial master, he was able to remain calm and courteous under Gu Yunbin's aura. This was quite rare. Gu Yunbin gestured for Xiao Chen to sit down. He smiled and said, "This old man is Gu Yunbin. If you do not mind, you can call me Old Gu. I have not asked for little brother's name yet." Yi Chen, Yi as in leaves, Chen as in birth. Yi Chen was Xiao Chen's current alias. The name Xiao Chen was currently wanted by the Yan clan, even in Shihe province. It was not good to use it directly. Gu Yunbin said politely again, "Yi Chen, I have seen Miss Feng's recommendation letter. Her words speak highly of you. I will definitely give Miss Feng face. However, the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is the backbone of the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It cannot be mixed in. I will have to test your strength in the end." Xiao Chen thought very quickly. He muttered, "Old Gu, if you have something to say, just say it." Yi Chen is not a pretentious person. When Gu Yunbin heard this, he was stunned. He smiled and said, "It has been a long time since a junior dared to speak to me like this. In that case, I will say it directly. I have a mission for you. If you can pass it, I will give you a chance to enter the inner sect. If you cannot, then go to the outer sect and temper yourself first. How about that?" Xiao Chen did not think too much about it. He had missed the opportunity to enter the inner sect. Originally, he had intended to enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion through the outer sect. It was only because of Feng Feishue's recommendation letter that he had this opportunity. Even if he could not pass it, there was no loss. Without any hesitation, Xiao Chen agreed to Gu Yunbin's request under his somewhat surprised gaze. He did not try to bargain at all. Gu Yunbin smiled and said, "I am gratified that you have such a mentality. However, I hope you do not get careless. The difficulty of the mission I am giving you is the same as the outer sect's end-of-year exam. The back door I open for you will only save you half a year. Kill a rank 5 spirit beast at will in the Evil Wind Valley outside the city. In order to prevent cheating, bring the spirit beast's corpse back. I will check it personally." After Gu Yunbin spoke, he handed Xiao Chen some information about the Evil Wind Valley. Xiao Chen received it, and did not look at it on the spot. He immediately took his leave and left the city lord's residence. After Xiao Chen found an independent courtyard in Saber City, he started to look through the information that Gu Yunbin handed him carefully. Evil Wind Valley was located to the west of Saber City. The cold qi there was extremely heavy. Most of the spirit beasts there were ice attributed. It was a place where the outer sect disciples would temper themselves. A rank 5 spirit beast was equivalent to a human martial saint. Aside from their intelligence and agility being slightly lower than humans, their pure strength could only be higher. After Xiao Chen took a look, he tossed the information onto the table. There was very little information. It was not very helpful. Chapter 141. With Xiao Chen's strength as a superior grade martial master, it would be extremely difficult for him to kill a rank 5 spirit beast. His chances of success were close to zero. Is the threshold of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's intersect really that high? Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He had some doubts in his heart. If he were to carry out such a mission, it would not be an exaggeration to describe it as having a 90% chance of survival. Xiao Chen sighed and held the lunar shadow saber in his hand. With a huangdang sound, he slowly drew the saber. A cold light flashed on the pitch-black blade. The sharp blade could slice through hair. Xiao Chen gently stroked the blade of the saber. A pretty figure appeared in his mind. He thought of everything that person had done for him. His gaze slowly turned resolute as he muttered, "No matter the reason you sealed yourself, I will do my best to wake you up. I will not make you cry again in this lifetime. Even if I have to give up my life, I will not hesitate. This is a promise." From the moment he held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and obtained the inheritance of the Thunder King, he had to keep this promise for life. Kasi. Xiao Chen sheathed the lunar shadow saber once again. He took out the Dragon Seizing Hands manual that he obtained from Yin Qianyun's body from the Universe Ring, and started reading it. This was an Earth-ranked martial technique that required an inherited martial spirit to learn. It was similar to Xiao Chen's Dragon Subduing Slash. However, Xiao Chen had the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. An inherited martial spirit would not be a hindrance to him. In a situation where a heaven-ranked martial technique did not appear, an earth-ranked martial technique was definitely the strongest martial technique in the world. Furthermore, an inherited earth-ranked martial technique from a noble clan with an innate bloodline would be even stronger. This Dragon Seizing Hands was much stronger than the ancient martial technique that Xiao Chen obtained in the ancient remnant. Xiao Chen looked at it carefully for half a night and comprehended something in his heart. Pussy eye. Xiao Chen suddenly made his move. He circulated the changing character formula and the Dragon Seizing Hands at the same time. Xiao Chen shouted and smashed his right hand forward. A giant black hand appeared, and with a bang, the stone table in the courtyard was smashed into pieces. The stone fragments danced wildly in the air and shot out. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and revealed a faint smile on his face. Using the Battle Sage Origin to evolve, it was indeed more efficient and easier to succeed. In the courtyard, Xiao Chen started to experiment continuously. Aside from the Dragon Seizing Hand, there was also Ji Chongkong's Astral Sword Technique, Hua Yunfei's Bloody Massacre Sword Technique, and Duamuking's Inherited Martial Technique. They were all modified using the changing character formula. In the end, he discovered that although he could execute these martial techniques after trying them a few times, they exhausted too much essence. He could not easily execute them. Only this Dragon Seizing Hand, with a martial technique in hand and a clear understanding of its circulation path, would require less essence to execute. Such a martial technique had value in actual combat. After his essence was exhausted, Xiao Chen did not enter a state of cultivation to absorb spiritual energy. Instead, he took out an inferior grade spirit stone and absorbed it completely. His essence instantly returned to its peak state. After Xiao Chen completely absorbed the energy in the spirit stone, the pool of clear water in his dantian grew noticeably larger. This was a pleasant surprise. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "No wonder everyone likes spirit stones. This thing is very useful to cultivators. Furthermore, it does not have any side effects. In the future, I have to absorb one every day. I can't just leave it lying around." Only a person like Xiao Chen, who wanted to gain something without risking anything, would say such words without feeling any heartache. Even the disciples of noble clans would not dare to be so extravagant. After Xiao Chen recovered his spiritual energy, he continued practicing the Dragon Seizing Hand. His spiritual energy was completely exhausted. Xiao Chen directly used the Spirit Stone to recover his essence, not wasting any time at all. After a while, when Xiao Chen had used the Dragon Seizing Hand a few hundred times, he discovered some small tricks that he did not know about in other martial techniques. When the huge hand attacked the enemy, he could make the huge hand move accordingly. This way, its might would be even stronger. After discovering this trick, Xiaochen was incomparably excited. He practiced from sunrise until the sky turned dark. Xiaochen could use the dragon-seizing hand skillfully. He made a clenched fist motion, retracting and releasing it effortlessly. Aside from the changing character formula, the main reason why Xiaochen was able to reach such a level in one day was because of the pile of spirit stones on the ground that no longer had any luster. The spirit stones that Yan Qianyan originally needed to use for half a year were used up by Xiaochen in one day. It was unknown what expression Yan Qianyan would have if he knew about this. As the sun rose in the east, Xiaochen woke up from his deep sleep. After washing up, Xiaochen took out the horn of the infant golden lion that he had obtained in Savage Forest and started carving it. Xiaochen did not dare to be careless when challenging a martial saint spirit beast. After thinking for a while, Xiaochen decided to carve the Golden Lion King sculpture. Without Yu Ying's dragon qi, the might of Princess Yingyu's sculpture would be much lower. On the other hand, if Xiaochen used the Golden Lion horn to carve the Golden Lion King, it would be much easier to control. This time, he was not as rushed as the previous time. He could only carve as he walked. Xiaochen was very meticulous in his carving. The fine hairs on the surface of the sculpture could be seen clearly. After a while, a lifelike Golden Lion King sculpture was completed. Xiaochen smiled faintly and placed it in his universe ring. Then he took out an ink bottle and poured the blood of the golden holy beast into it. Then he gently sliced his palm, allowing the essence blood in his body to merge with it. Xiaochen wanted to carve a new talisman. Under the situation where his cultivation realm had not increased, he could only increase the quality of the materials in order to increase the might of the talisman. The Golden Lion King contained the bloodline of an ancient golden holy beast. It was much stronger than the blood of a regular spirit beast. If he used it to carve a new talisman, its might would definitely increase by half. After the essence blood and the golden holy beast's blood were completely merged together, Xiaochen took out a brush and paper. He focused all his attention and started to carve stroke by stroke. A faint golden light spread out from the tip of the brush. Xiaochen drew very slowly, but he did not pause at all. As he moved up and down, it was very natural. The connection was perfect. In the end, he completed it in one breath. He successfully inscribed a rank 3 lightning-attributed talisman. After wiping the sweat off his forehead, Xiaochen took a deep breath. Carving talismans was the most tiring thing. When one was highly focused, one could not afford to be careless. If one was not steady, the talisman would immediately go to waste. Furthermore, this would exhaust a lot of essence. Xiaochen rested for a while before continuing to carve. He continued to carve more than 20 talismans in a row. His luck was not good for the last few. Most of them failed. His success rate was only 50%. After the essence in his body was completely exhausted, Xiaochen took out an inferior grade spirit stone. After a while, essence immediately filled his entire body. The clear spring in his dantian swelled up again. He was now a peak superior grade martial master. As long as Xiaochen was willing, he could become a martial grand master at any time. This was the wondrous use of spirit stones. After everything was prepared, Xiaochen quickly walked out of the city. He removed the wooden token from his waist and showed it to the guards at the city gates. There were no obstructions as he left the city. Evil Wind Valley was a very suitable place for outer disciples to train. There were many outer disciples forming groups at the western city gates. A few of them even invited Xiaochen to go with them. Xiaochen smiled faintly and rejected them. His mission could only be completed by himself. If there were other injuries on the spirit beast's corpse, he would fail the mission. There were many people going to Evil Wind Valley. Xiaochen casually chose a group and followed behind. He did not have to worry about losing his way. Everyone moved very quickly. They arrived outside of Evil Wind Valley in an hour. What made Xiaochen somewhat surprised was that the outside of Evil Wind Valley was different from what he had imagined. The outside was like a marketplace. There were stalls set up everywhere. The stalls were very simple. There was a layer of ragged cloth on the ground. All sorts of herbs, spirit beast spirit cores, and flesh were displayed on the cloth. These people were all wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer disciples. Occasionally, there would be peddlers coming over to haggle. The scene was very bustling and noisy, selling the most complete map of Evil Wind Valley. The locations of all sorts of spirit beasts and herbs are marked. The lowest price here, definitely the lowest price here. A loud shout attracted Xiao Chen's attention. A map of Evil Wind Valley. Coincidentally, this was something he urgently needed. Xiao Chen walked over unhurriedly. He did not reveal any signs of impatience. This was a small trick when buying things. One must not let the other party see through one's true intentions. The stall owner was a young man wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer disciples. When he saw Xiao Chen, he quickly greeted him warmly. Xiao Chen took the map from him and looked at it carefully. After a while he asked, "Why is there no mark on this map of the location of a rank 5 spirit beast?" The young stall owner smiled and said, "You should be new here. There are no fixed locations for rank 5 spirit beasts in Evil Wind Valley. Furthermore, no outer disciple would dare to provoke a rank 5 spirit beast. Isn't that just seeking death?" The outer disciples would not provoke a rank 5 spirit beast. Why was it different from what Gu Yunbin said? Xiao Chen put down the map and asked, "Didn't you say that the end-of-year exam for outer disciples is to kill a rank 5 spirit beast?" The stall owner revealed an astonished expression. "How can that be? The end-of-year exam is normally based on the number of rank 4 spirit beasts you kill. Once you reach a certain standard, you will pass. This number changes every year, depending on the spirit beast. However, no matter how much it changes, I have never heard of any end-of-year exam requiring you to kill a rank 5 spirit beast. Isn't that just sending yourself to death? Even if it is an inner disciple, if they meet a rank 5 spirit beast, the sect instructs them to stay as far away as possible." "Old bastard, you actually dared to lie to me," Xiao Chen cursed in his heart. He had not expected that this Gu Yunbin, who looked like a senior expert, would actually come up with such a vicious plan, trying to kill him. "Brother, I think you might have been tricked by someone. The strength of a rank 5 spirit beast is comparable to a martial saint. How could we be a match for it? I advise you not to act rashly." That person said out of goodwill. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "I was just speaking casually. Thank you for the reminder, brother. I am called Yi Chen. May I know your name?" "Lu Chen, an outer disciple of Heavenly Saber Pavilion." Xiao Chen looked around at the other stall owners who were also outer disciples. He asked, "Brother Lu Chen, why are there so many people setting up stalls outside of Evil Wind Valley? Why are they doing business instead of cultivating?" "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.